Chancy.
So take a chance on Pastor Chancy. Do we have any song requests? If not, well, I'll pick it, and then y'all gonna be like, "Oh, we don't want to sing that song." What's that song you said? Did you say a song? Flying high in the castle of my heart, in the castle of my heart, in the castle of my heart. Love is a flag flying high in the castle of my heart, and the king is in residence. There's a let it fly, fly in the sky. Let the whole world know, let the whole world know, let the whole world know. So let it fly in the sky, let the whole world know that the king is a residence there. Pieces of flag flying high in the castle of my heart, in the castle of my heart, in the castle of my heart. Pieces of flag flying high in the castle of my heart, and the king is a residence there. So let it fly, fly in the sky, let the whole world know, let the whole world know, let the whole world know. So let it fly in the sky, let the whole world know that the king is in residence there. Amen. I'm going to hand it over to Pastor Chancy. There's another one there.
I mean, which one is?
That's the pastor.
Let's swank it up real quick. Chauncey. Chauncey. Yeah, that's the. Oh, we'll go Chancy then. Yeah, I'm not British. I'm not British at all. All right, how y'all doing? Look at the little baby right there. She's so cute. Look at her little cheeks. I'm sure she is. Everybody related to you. All right, so what we're going to do this afternoon, we're not going to take too much time. I have two PowerPoints. This one is really just pictures. The next one is really just few words, like 20 slides, but those slides only have like one word, a little sentence. And that's really just like, how do I put it, key things that are important to my wife and I as it relates to ministry, right? As a matter of fact, my wife is on Zoom somehow, so everybody just say, hello. Yeah, she'll text me or something and let me know she heard that, saw that, or something like that. But yeah, sorry she couldn't be here. In 2 weeks when we're back here, she'll be back here. Then I drove down, as you heard, I drove down from Philly this time instead of flew, and she wasn't able to make it because of that. So this first PowerPoint is just pictures. Now, let me preface like this. My wife and I are not perfect. Amen, hallelujah. You know, sometimes people think that, the pastor is a perfect individual with a perfect life, and it's just not my case. You know, it's not our case at all. And so, you know, when you look in the Bible and you look at the family structure, right, it's a lot different than, you know, just the one mother, the one father, and then the kids. It's often the husband and wife, then a couple other wives, some concubines, and a bunch of kids, and all types of, it's you know, and so I'm saying all this because a lot of what is put out to the world about pastors and all is like this cookie cutter, perfect image. And that's not what you see in the Bible, and that sure ain't what you see in my life. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just giving y'all that precursor to the PowerPoint. So, how do I use this fancy handy dandy? There we go. All right, so this slide, like I say, is just pictures. Any question that you want to ask me, feel free. Personal question, it doesn't matter. If it's a for my wife question, I'll let my wife determine when she comes if she wants to answer that or not. But you can ask me anything that you want to ask me. I'm pretty much an open book. If I don't want to answer it out loud right now, ask me one-on-one, and I'm sure you'll snitch and tell somebody else what I told you and somebody else in the house. one way we got some snitches up in here, so you know what it So it's going to get around somehow anyway, you know what I'm saying? So anywho, so who are we? This is, where do I point this thing, there or there? Up there, okay. So that's my wife and I, as you guys know. You know, we have been married since June 20th of last year. Not quite a year. Not quite a year yet. Yeah, newlyweds. Now, we've known each other for several years. We've known each other for a number of years, but we just recently got, look, she got happy on that. Yeah, she said, we just got married June 20th last year in Philadelphia. And my wife has been living in Philadelphia for about 8 years. I lived in Philadelphia back in the 1980s. My parents are born and raised West Philadelphia. A lot of my mom's side of the family, all from Philadelphia. And so I lived there back in the 80s, but, you know, crack epidemic came through around 84, 85, 86. My parents decided we were poor, broke, and in need of everything. And so they went into the military, and, you know, we left Philly and then, you know, traveled the world. So I've lived a number of different places. I lived in Germany. I've lived in Hawaii. As you heard 2 weeks ago, my mom lives in Hawaii. I've lived in a multitude of states and things like that. So there's a lot to me, per se, that meets the eye, good and not so good at that. But that is my wife and I. We very much enjoy each other. We enjoy talking to each other, hanging around each other. You know, I miss her, and I'm like, when I got down here yesterday, I got down here yesterday morning, man, I was looking at airplane tickets as soon as I got here, trying to figure out how can I get back to, how can I get back? You know, when you have that person, you know, you love to be around that person. It just is what it is, you know. Yeah, so it's just like I want to get back to her, and you know, we can't wait until all this back and forth is done, you know. So just bear with us. It is a lot, you know, we have to do with all of this. But yeah, that's my wife and I, Shakara. You know, she's born in Jamaica. She moved to the States when she was a teenager and pretty much grew up in New York City. But again, any questions pertaining to her, I'll let you guys ask her, and she can answer those. So that's the two books that you heard me mention them before. So if you want to know certain other things that I don't have time to cover today, the first one is called Jail Life, which stands for Jesus Always Is. Look and love your friends and your enemies. How that name actually came about, I was in jail on one of many occasions, right? And I was one of those people, like, a lot of my stories, there's about 3 different things in there, 4 different things: money, jail, drugs, and women. Those are the 4 key things you're going to kind of find in a lot of my background stories, right? But I was in jail one time, and me and my one of the guys I used to play dominoes with, right? We were sitting there just looking, and neither one of us were churchy or anything. We weren't, you know, we were just looking at the back of the jail uniform, and both of us said at the same time, Jesus always is looking, when we saw the Jail. And so that's how that came about. So when I wrote the book, this was years later, so I didn't change while I was incarcerated or anything. That was even years later. But that's how that title came up, Jesus Always Is Looking, Love Your Friends and Your Enemies. Then the second book, that's one I just published. My wife and I completed that one last year, around November, published it in December. This one is, so I was pastoring in Michigan, Lake Region Conference, right? I pastored in Lake Region Conference for 7 months. Before there, I was in Northeastern Conference. I was there for like 5 years. Those are the ones that picked me up out of Oakwood, sent me to Andrews. From Andrews, I went over to New York City, et cetera, et cetera. And that's where I met my wife at over there. And so when I went to Lake Region, I was there from January to July of last year, 2014. In between all of that, my dad had passed. My dad passed in May of last year. It hit hard. It hit very hard. You know, there's some people that you know that death is a part of life, but there's just some people that you just know are gonna live until Jesus returns, and that was my dad. We just, you know, just every challenge that comes your way, you're gonna overcome it. But death overcame, praise the Lord, Jesus overcame death, so we get to see him again, right? But when he passed, it hit hard. My wife and I got married in June, and I needed a break from pastoral ministry. Yeah, I really needed a break from it. I didn't know how long I needed a break from it, but I needed a break from it. And so I took a break for like 7 months. And in between there, I never stopped doing ministry, right? Never stopped doing ministry. But I decided, you know what, I'm going to try some teaching with the Philadelphia School District. And this is where y'all heard me 2 weeks ago where I said my teaching lasted two months, right? So my wife teaches for the Philadelphia School District. For me, it wasn't so much the kids was NIGGAs. Yeah, they was some it was there to the ball. They was some, but it wasn't so much the kids. It was I didn't really like the Philadelphia school system, how it doesn't support the teachers. It puts so much on the teachers, no accountability for the kids, and expects so much out of them. And I'm just like, I ain't rocking with it. I didn't like the system, right? And teaching just ain't for everybody. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I had fun with the kids, but now I got to get to the lesson, and man, I just want to have fun. I want to talk life and all that kind of stuff. So anywho, it lasted 2 months, right? And so the process to getting to be able to teach, because I had to get an emergency certification. I had to get emergency teacher certification. The process for a felon is extensive. I don't know if it's the same in every state, but Pennsylvania, man, it was extensive. Mind you, I haven't been incarcerated or any of that since the early 2000s, or whatever, 2008, 9, 10, somewhere around that. That's when I completed my parole, right? So it's been years. No, 2006 is when I think I completed. It's been years since I've been incarcerated, selling drugs, hustling, robbing. It's been years since any of that, right? After all of that, I've got my bachelor's degree, master's degree, doctorate degree, pastored, all these things. So I'm thinking that society is just going to accept me and let me teach and all this kind of stuff. And I'm black. And so, I say that part. So the process took way longer than it takes a normal person with no record. A normal person with no record, they would have been able to get their certification like this, get in the door like it. I had to call probation and parole officers from the 90s, from the early 2000s. I don't even know if these people still living, right? And I had to get letters sent to me. I don't know where these people are. I just know, okay, call the state of Texas, figure this out, figure that out, call this state. But it was a long process. Within that process, that's how that book came about, A Trail of Tears, Strength for the Challenges We Face Transitioning from the Streets to Society. Because it is hard. And you can testify that. It is super hard. Now, I know for some, you can say, okay, well, it's your fault you got into this, whatever it may be. But when you're ready for that change, it is hard, guys. Very hard. And I was like, listen, because there was moments I wanted to give up, right? And so that's how that book was birthed right there, Trail of Tears, to help give encouragement to individuals as they're trying to transition from the streets back into society. It's just a book of words that you'll need, like perseverance, resilience, dedication, things like that. And I give a story with each thing. I give how you're going to apply this as you're trying to make this transition, and that's it. Each chapter is really like 3-4 pages. Then it's a little journal section, and then it goes to the next chapter. But that's how that book was birthed right there. All right, next thing. All right, so now we're going to get into all of my children. A lot, all, and definitely, because if I would have just said child, A, that would have been a lot shorter. But all my children. Wasn't that a soap opera or something? My life is a soap opera. Amen. Hallelujah. All right, so Zamora is 8 years old. Now, because I'm an open book, right? Zamora is not my biological daughter. However, she's my bonus daughter. I don't call them stepkids and stuff. I don't even know how that stuff started. What is a step, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I don't know what a step is. So that's my bonus daughter right there. And she calls me daddy. You know, we are very cool. She's a Philadelphia Eagles fan too. I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan. So, you know, as a matter of fact, we were in that picture right there, we were at a Philadelphia Eagles practice. Every August we go to watch the Eagles practice. We diehard Eagles fans around here. Amen. Go Birds. All right. So that's Zamora. She's 8 years old. And that's who you guys are going to see when we make the full transition. That's who you're going to see here every single Sabbath. You'll see Zamora. And she's going to be going to the church school over there and everything like that. So you see her. She's very smart. She's very fun, very witty. She's a great little kid. You guys are going to love her. You're going to love her a lot. Trust me. So that's Zamora right there. And then on the, let's see, my right, y'all's left. Well, actually, that's on the left now. Whatever, y'all get on the other side. Let's just say on the other side, right? On the other side, so that's Kaysen right there. Kaysen is 6 years old. Kaysen lives in the Dallas, Texas area, right? She's in the Dallas, Texas area. So you may every now and again see her. You're going to see all of the kids, but it's going to be in and out with some of the other ones. Zamora is who you're going to pretty much see every single Sabbath. The rest of now, let me stop right here and say this real quick. I'm one of those black fathers, right, that I don't believe in having kids and not being present in their kids' life. So let me just, as you see all the kids, understand I am not a person that just believes in making babies and not being present in their life. I don't believe in that. I don't condone that or anything along those lines, right? It is very important to be in our kids' lives as much as possible. I understand life happens because it happens to me too. But it's very important for us to, so I just want to throw that out there so y'all ain't just looking at pictures and wondering, all right, is he in it? No, it don't work like that, right? All right, so that's Kaysen right there. Her nickname is Pickles, right, or Pickle Juice, right? And so that's Pickles. So now I'm sorry, beside there, those are ages 8 and 6, if I didn't say that a second ago. Then you have Xavier. Xavier's 23 years old. Xavier is in Killeen, Texas, right? Xavier, he owns his own food truck business or whatnot. So you may, like I say, a lot of them are older, so they're kind of going to be hit and miss or whatever. But Xavier's 23, good head on his shoulders, doing the right thing, has his own food truck business. Nehemiah, he's 20 years old. Nehemiah is in college in Atlanta. Nehemiah runs track, very, very good at track or whatnot. And very good kid, very quiet. You see me, I'm loud, I'm bouncy. Sometimes people make mistakes and think the kids are all just like me. You know, and sometimes that's been hard on the kids in this whole pastoring thing because people are like, well, why your kid don't talk and why you da-da-da-da-da? Because they got their own personality. They got their own personality, right? And so, anywho, Nehemiah, really good kid, really, really respectful. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir, soft-spoken, very great kid, runs track. Like I say, he is down in ATL, shouty. ATL, shouty? I ain't never even lived in Atlanta. Oh, my bad. Not Clark. He's at Clayton State. Yeah. He's at Clayton State. Over, if you know where the airport is in Atlanta, if you go down about 2 or 3 exits past the airport, there you hit Clayton State University, sorry. All right, so you guys met and I'm going to show you more kids in a second. You guys met oh, hold on. I skipped a whole bunch of stuff. Hold on. Yeah, I'm sitting there missing kids. There we go. Let me set this down here. All right. So now you have Shanique. Shanique is the one right there with the Navy uniform on. Shanique is in the Navy. She's 21 years old. She's married, and she's been in the Navy now going on 2 years, right? She is presently stationed in Virginia Beach, Virginia, Norfolk, Virginia area. And, she's been enjoying the Navy. She wants to make a career out of it. I hope she stays in the 20 years. You know, very, very good kid, but that's where she is. She's down there in Virginia in the Navy. Then you have in that picture where I just clumped all of them up to make the slide a little shorter. Those 4 right there, they all have the same mother, which is Tato. Sorry, I'm using nicknames here. Everybody calls him Tato. We all call him Tato. My wife calls him AJ, but most of us call him Tato. And the reason we call him Tato, when he was born, he looked like a potato to me. He looked just like a potato. So at first he was potato, then he was French fried, then he was like sweet potato, and he would be all types of potatoes depending on how he was annoying me. But then what stuck was Tato. So he's been Tato his entire life, right? So Tato is 19 years old. Tato is currently in Hawaii. He just went back to Hawaii. He enjoyed. I don't know if any of you guys ever been to Hawaii, but it can be. I struggle with islands because islands are so small, but it can be a fun place. It can be a great place. Cost of living is high, but he loves being out there in Hawaii. Matter of fact, his girlfriend is out there in Hawaii too, so you know how that goes. So he's there. He, matter of fact, is working right now to get into the Navy or whatnot. So he just took the ASVAB test yesterday or whatnot. So he's working to get into the Navy, then go to MEPS and ship on out, right? The next one right next to Tato's the one with the long hair. You see Simone. Simone has on more military garb. Simone is in the Marines. Simone is 18 years old, of the few, the proud, the Marines. Yeah, she's a Marine. She enlisted in the Marines last year. She did her boot camp and everything in California. She got her orders about a month ago, and they sent her back to Hawaii. So she's there in Hawaii. And my mom is in Hawaii too, so it kind of makes it all good that, yeah. So Simone is there in Hawaii, stationed at the Marine base on Oahu. Then you have her twin. Her twin is Summer. Summer's right next to her. Summer is 6 minutes older than Simone, but Simone is more bossy than Summer is, so you really can't tell who's, Simone will boss everybody. Simone is a natural born leader, but she's always going to tell you what to do. She's never wrong. She's bossy and all the rest of it, right? So Summer and Simone, obviously they're twins. They're 18 years old. Simone enlisted at 17 years old, and she was the youngest that had ever enlisted in the Marines in her area where she enlisted from. And man, they made her a leader over her whole squadron. I mean, she's good. She's very good at what she does. Even before she went to the Marines, and the Marines ain't easy. It's not easy, but she was training and training and training before going in, and she was at the top of her game or whatnot. Then you have Summer, like I say. Summer is 18. Summer is about to enlist into the Army. A bunch of kids love the military, right? My parents were in the military also. They did, my dad did Army, my mom did Army, then Army Reserve, then Air Force or whatnot. So society determined that I was not allowed into the military. So that's what society determined. Let me say this real quick. The baby's making up for it, because I sure couldn't. So y'all remember 9/11, right? I was 18 years old when 9/11 happened, right? 2001, September 11th, right? I remember in June of 2001, I went to the recruiter to try to get into the military, right? There was only one job I wanted. I wanted one job. I wasn't trying to get into the military to make a career out of it. I wasn't trying to do nothing fancy. All I wanted was to be able to kill people legally. That's it. Notice I said legally. I'm just telling you, that's all. I didn't care about the money. I wanted to get into the military to only be, because I was in the streets anyhow. So it was like, okay, well, I can use guns in the military, and I can fire them legally. Cool. So I tried to get into the military or whatever, and I was currently on probation. I had like 2 years left from a previous charge. They was like, when you finish probation, come back to us. I passed the ASVAB, but then 9/11 happened. 9/11 happened, and about 3 weeks after 9/11 happened, yours truly went to the penitentiary. And she laughing at me. And so I ended up, and as you're reading the book and hearing my story later, I tried to rob a bank, and that didn't work out, and so I ended up going to prison, right? When I got out of prison, I tried for the military again. They told me at that point, you got too many felonies, and they weren't going to let me into the military. So no. So then I changed my life and all that stuff. I tried military chaplaincy. One time, they told me, nope, you got too many felonies. I tried it one more time 2 years ago, and they told me, nope, you got too many felonies. So I've tried the military 4 or 5 times. No. So my kid's making up for it. They're making up for it. So Summer, she's headed into the Army. She'll be enlisting this year. And then you have Andrew right there. Andrew is in Philadelphia too with us, with my wife and I. He's there. He's in the 9th grade currently. However, the reason you won't, again, you're going to see all of them in and out. But Andrew, he wants to go over to Hawaii because, his sister's there, and then the other one's there. Summer's in Hawaii right now. She just went back to Hawaii last week, and Tato's in Hawaii. So he wants to go over there to Hawaii too, so he's going to head over to Hawaii. He'll be out there. But again, you will see them all from time to time. So That's those ones right there, right? Now, that was all 8 kids. Now, 9 kids, 8 biologically, 1 bonus, 9 total. There are for the 8 that I have, and again, I don't mind being an open book, I have 8 kids by 5 different women. 8 by 5 sounds like a 2 by 4, sounds like a piece of wood or something out here, right? But again, this is just honesty, right? As long as y'all allow me to be honest, right? What you need me to do? Oh, my wife was waving at you guys. She's saying, where's she waving at? Oh, wherever Zoom is. Hello, wife, wherever you are. Yeah, she told me to stop and wave. Good. All of y'all wave, thank you. Hey, y'all just waved. Y'all already waved. Oh, look at that. Don't y'all look nice. And so my life has not been perfect. But I am in all of my kids' lives. I don't believe in just having kids and neglecting kids or anything along those lines, right? So again, you will see the kids, but it's just as they bounce in and out. Now, let me stop right here for 1 second. Let me explain 2 things, right? Actually, 1 thing. 5 of those kids that you saw up there, Shanique, Summer, Simone, Tato, and Andrew, all those 5. For 2 years solid, they only lived with me. It was me and those 5 trooping it out. When I say trooping it out, I'm talking about trooping it out, right? No child support from nobody, no help from nobody. So when you hear me be able to speak from 2 sides of the spectrum, the woman spectrum who generally has the kids and the male spectrum from the other side, I've been on both sides, right? Where no help at all. And it's just me and the 5. And me and the 5, we lived in a 2-bedroom apartment, 3 in 1 room, 2 in 1 room, me in the living room, no privacy, no nothing. I couldn't really have friends because friends couldn't understand. Man, listen, I got kids, I promised them, kids don't forget nothing. Daddy, remember when you da-da-da-da-da? They don't forget nothing. And so I'm only saying I understand what it feels like when it's just you trying to troop it out with 1 kid, 2 kids, 5. Man, I've been there. I've been there to where I have to decide, all right, I got $2. How do I feed 5 kids with $2? Exactly. Went and got the ramen noodles. We're going to make these ramen noodles. We're going to make this thing work. You see what I'm saying? So I've been there. I understand both. Hey, where y'all going? Hold on, man. Hold on. Where y'all going? How y'all just going to dip out on my story? Nah, I'm playing with that. Yeah, you good. Look, she was sitting on the edge of the seat. I saw her trying to get ready to go. I was just waiting for you to get up so I could say something. Appreciate y'all, though. Y'all have a good rest of the Sabbath. So, yeah, just saying that I understand both sides of the spectrum. A lot of life has been lived between my wife and I, period. There's been broken marriages between the 2 of us. There's been a lot of heartache. There's been a lot of pain. But we feel that God brought us together. And this is a marriage that we truly, truly, really appreciate. We value. We work hard at every single day. We love each other. We're friends. We pray together. We worship together. We love together, everything. And so I'm just saying there's a lot of life that has been lived. So even though I'm 42, I've lived probably enough life to be 84. But I look like I'm 20. Amen. All right, so that's my parents right there, Gwen and Vonzel, as stated. My dad passed last year. We were all Eagles fans. My parents, like I say, born and raised West Philadelphia. That picture was a little bit before the Super Bowl we went to 2 years ago when we lost to the Chiefs. And so my dad had those shirts made where it says Mom and Dad and the years that they were born, 52 and 53, and then the Eagles on the front or whatnot. But, yeah, that's them. And that's the house they had moved into when they first got back to Hawaii in 2022. And then you have, you met my brother and my cousin and my brother's wife last week or whatnot. We're all Eagles fans. That's me and my brother at the Super Bowl 2 years ago. That's all 3 of us. We just we always wear Eagles stuff, but we were all together that day. That was a few years ago, and we took a picture together and realized, man, we all got on Eagles clothes right now. But you'll realize for us, football, the Philadelphia Eagles is not just a team. It's not just a sport for us. It's family. It's something that brings us together no matter what is going on, right? And so we even had a family member that used to play for the Philadelphia Eagles. So it's something that runs real deep for us. That's very close, near and dear to our hearts or whatnot. So that's why you hear us so much, go Birds, fly Eagles fly, all that good stuff like that, right? So that's us, Adam, Aaron, and where am I going with this thing? And Roger. Now, I'm going to go to the next slide. Anybody have any questions on those pictures right there? Anybody have any questions? Eight, nine. Nine. Okay. 8 biologically, 1 bonus, right. Total of 9.
And then you had the trips to the special house.
Trips to the special house?
The special house.
Oh, you talking about
yeah.
You talking about being incarcerated?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking, when did you find time for all that and you back and
So I'll explain how that went. So I had my first child when I was 19, right? So I had just turned 9. So 9/11 happened, right? 9/11 happened 2001 in September. October I turned 19 years old, October 2001. My son was born, the oldest, Xavier. He was born October 14th, 11 days after my birthday. He was born 11 days after that, and then a few weeks after that, that's when I went to prison. That's when I got locked up or whatnot. So he was literally born right before I got locked up. So when he used to come to prison, all he would do was holler. Like they used to have to take him out of the visiting room because he just come in, and I understand it. I mean, you come in behind all that razor wire. You know, he didn't really know me at that point, because I was only around for a few weeks, and then I was incarcerated. But then when I got out of prison, every female that I could find walking and talking with a heartbeat, I was talking to. Understand. I didn't care. Listen. And, some people were shy and all that stuff. No. You just had me locked up with all these men. I got something to say to every woman. Every woman, success or fail, I've got something to say. And that's when others were popping up. And then, being in the drug game, I could easily make $1,000 a day in 2 hours, $1,000 in 2 hours. There's a lot that comes with that. There's a lot of people that come your way and different things like that. And so that's how I was meeting different women and things like that. And then, like I say, all of them aren't born out of wedlock. Some of them are born from marriages or whatnot. But marriages just didn't work out. And so, but kids, we have lovely kids and things like that. So, yeah. But I had been getting locked up from when I was 15, from age 15 up to 25. I had been in and out. And when I was out, I was using my time wisely.
I understand.
If you want to call it wisely. If you want to call it wisely. See, but the funny thing is, y'all remember, Charles, how old are you? 48, I'm 42. All right. Most of y'all probably don't remember. Y'all way older than me. Yeah, you said it. But y'all remember, if you remember, in school back in the 80s, early 90s, we used to play this game in school, right? There was this, you take a piece of paper, you'd fold it, and you'd do like this. Yeah, you do like that, and you'd write things on it, right? One of the things you would write on is like, how many kids did you want to have or something like that. I always came up with the number 12. I always wanted lots of kids, not because my parents had, because it's just me and my brother. But I always wanted lots of kids. I don't know why. I just always saw myself having lots of kids, and lo and behold, it is what it is, right? And so, yeah, I ended up with a lot of kids. But, I as my brother teases, I make up for him because he has no kids, right? He never wanted kids. He's one of the ones that he likes his house nice and neat with his video game machine right there. He don't want kids knocking it over and all the rest of it like that. Me, I don't really care about that. And so he's never wanted kids, and so I guess I just make up for me, him, and whoever else you can think of, So that's what it is. Anybody have any other questions about any of the kids or anything about that, anything from the past life, anything like that? No questions? All right, let's go on. So don't try to hear something through the grapevine and say I didn't give y'all a chance to ask it. You can ask me whatever. Yes, ma'am.
Are you
on.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3. I guess I'm third generation. What she asked was, am I first or second generation Adventist? I'm like third generation Adventist or something like that. Fourth generation, I don't know, everybody Adventist. But so here's what, so my dad, my mom grew up Catholic. She became Adventist when she was around 17 years old. My dad was born and raised Seventh-day Adventist, going to Ebenezer in Philadelphia. My dad's mom was born and raised Adventist. My grandfather, my grandmother's husband, he wasn't Adventist. He became Adventist through the marriage or whatnot. My grandmother's, on my dad's side, my grandmother's parents were Adventists as well. I'm like third, fourth generation Adventist. Like, my mom's side is some are Adventist, most are not Adventist. Yeah. Yeah. And my mom's parents, I never met them. They both died before I was born. But they weren't Adventists. They weren't Seventh-day Adventists or anything like that. So yeah, third, fourth, something along that. I ain't never kept track. Yeah, I ain't never. Any other questions that anybody wants to ask? Feel free. Nothing is off limits. Ask me whatever. Y'all good? All right. So when y'all start hearing stuff, Pastor Chancy, yeah, don't say I didn't give you a chance to ask whatever you wanted to ask. Don't say he wasn't an open book. All right. Here we go. Anytime y'all want to ask me anything, feel free. I hope to be soon. Presently, no. I hope to be soon. Jinx, you can't talk for 10 minutes.
Not to cut you off, Pastor. But if you have a question, wait until the mic gets to you. It's not so us in here can hear you. It's so the people on the live stream can hear you.
Gotcha.
So thank you.
All right. Need the mic right here. Me and JoJo supposed to play basketball together. JoJo said he got some game. I don't think so.
Pastor
JoJo
Chancy,
ain't got no game.
how did you know that Shakara was your wife?
How did I know Shakara was my wife?
Yes.
I actually wrote her like a 2 or 3 page letter explaining to her. Thank you, Lady Blue. Thank you. I'm a blues on you. How did I know she was my wife? Let me back up. Let me back up and go to how we met first, right? So I was asked to do a week of prayer for a church, right? There was a mutual friend that we had. Yeah, there was a mutual friend that we had. And the mutual friend had shared with Shakara. At that point, I didn't know who Shakara was. So she shared with her, hey, hop online, this young preacher or whatever. Let me throw some stuff in there. This young, handsome preacher. Bald-headed and fine. Thank you, whatever. Shh. And so, so anyhow, she had let her know, that I was on doing a week of prayer. And so Shakara hopped on. I didn't know any of the people. I knew only the pastor who invited me on and the mutual friend. I didn't know anybody else who I was doing this week of prayer, for. So my wife is sending her, Lady Blue, messages to correct me and say certain things. It was my wife's church mom. Sorry. Mutual friend, church mom, one of the two. So anytime y'all see Lady Blue come up here, my wife is correcting me through her. Yeah, if I'm tell it right. Why you ask me this question? Because anything I'm gonna get wrong, she gonna come up here with a message. No, I'm playing with you. You're good. So anyhow, we did the Zoom thing, the week of prayer, and my wife, who at that point, like I said, I didn't know, she had reached out to me in order to come to her church to be able to speak to the young people, share my testimony, whatever it may be. And so from there, we just started to build a friendship. That's it. Neither one of us were looking for anything. We had never even had a conversation beyond school, because she's a teacher, and beyond church stuff. We never had like a real personal conversation and all, nothing about dating, none of that, right? And so everything pretty much came about organically, right? And so now I'm gonna fast forward a few years. So that's how we met, through that. A few years later, she asked me, I finally came to her church and I preached, right? That was my first time meeting her in person, physically meeting her in person. Because all we did was talk, via phone, right? And so when I met her in person, you know, she was the church clerk of the church, and man, I'm sitting there, you know, I got there for Sabbath school, you know, I'm waiting so I can preach and everything like that. She running around the church like a chicken with her head cut off, man, like doing everything in the church. I mean everything. Making the bulletins, passing the bulletins out, finding different people, standing up in the front of church, doing announcements, doing this, doing that. And I'm like, when do you actually, kind of like Lady Blue, how Lady Blue just moving around all the holes. Same thing, my wife just flying around, and I'm like, you know, what are you doing? And so anywho, after the service, we met, we talked maybe for 5 minutes, and then she had to leave and go somewhere. And we took a picture together. One of the elders of the church, I think it was, took a picture. And I don't know, maybe that was a catalyst or something. But anywho, fast forwarding past that now. A year or so had passed. And around December of 2023, we started to get closer. Right? And you could tell we started to get closer because our conversation started to change, right? So we started to have possibility conversations, right? What if this, what if that, different things along those lines. I was single, she was single, things along those lines. And one thing that's big for me is, let me be upfront about how many kids I have, you know, be upfront about my life so you know what you're getting yourself into, right? Yeah, and because we were already friends, she already knew all of that, right? So it was so much easier because all of the stuff she knew just from us being friends, right? And so conversation started to change. And then January 1st, not this January 1st, last January 1st or December 31st, you know, I was like, hey, you know, what if we take our relationship to another level, right? What really stood out to me about her was we would do every Friday, we would pray together. We would get on the phone, no matter where I was, no matter where she was. Oh, somebody's at the door trying to get in, a couple of people. Every Friday, no matter where we were, you know, we would get on the phone and we would have our prayer list and we would pray together, right? And I always wanted somebody that I could just pray with. I always wanted somebody who, when the problems hit, would go to prayer. Like that meant something to me because I was used to, I was used to that, to the aggression, the anger, all of those things. But I was experiencing something new of, let's pray. Right? And so it was like, these are things that I'm looking for. Also, she was dedicated. And when I say was, it's not that she isn't now. She still is. But this is what I was seeing then. Her dedication to church, absent me. Right? Because I remember when I was at Oakwood, some people, man, and I never understood this. I'd hear the young ladies, I want to marry a pastor. I want to marry a pastor. I'm like, why? Why the world would you want to do that? Like, it don't make no sense to me. But for some reason, some people look at the big, large churches, and they see all the music and all this stuff, and they think it fanciful and all this stuff. And you mess around and get sent to a church with 2 members. 1 member sits there, 1 member sits there, no choir, no money, no nothing. And you realize what ministry can actually really look like, right? And so some people will attach to me simply because of pastor, right? And some people will get involved with ministry because of me. I always wanted to be with somebody that was already involved in ministry, absent me. Don't get into it because of me. Be involved in it, absent me. So I'm looking at those things. So she was already fully engaged in ministry. Also, I don't do well with cookie cutter people that have no past, right? I got a lot of past. I mean, a whole lot of past, right? She may not speak on her past as much as I do, in front of people, I mean, but she has a past as well. All of us do. And I needed somebody that can understand their past. I needed somebody who understood how to pray in the midst of the problems. I needed somebody who loved to worship. I needed somebody who loved church, who loved God, all of those things. That was all her. It wasn't about the money, and she's amazingly beautiful to me, but it wasn't the looks that I was looking beyond the looks. I was looking at the heart, the mind, the passion, and the fact that she would, like, I had so much going on in my life at a point in time, and she would just step in and be willing to help time and time and time again, no matter what was going on, no matter if it pulled from her pocket to help me out, she was willing to do that. So I saw that willing spirit, that giving spirit. And all of those things were saying, that's the one. That's the one. That's how I knew. That's how I knew that was the one. And that doesn't mean, that doesn't mean we don't have our ups and downs. And yeah, we all do. We're human beings. But we have something special that neither one of us have experienced before, and God permeates all throughout it all, right? And so those are the things. Appreciate the question, though. Did my wife send you anything else for me to correct? Nope, no message. I don't see nothing. Anybody else? Anybody else got any questions before I just run through these core values and mission? Yes, ma'am. Kristen has her hand up.
Did you have dreams like before you went to jail, or?
Yeah, so meaning like goals, dreams, and things like that? Yes, ma'am. So I think chapter 5 of my book, it's entitled Every Young Black Man's Aspirations, Basketball and Football. I was one of those ones that I wanted basketball or football, right? I thought about being an astronaut for this long, literally this long. Because at first, I was fascinated with the whole space race thing of the 1960s. At first, I didn't realize they had to do a bunch of math, right? There's only a few things I like about math. One is not doing math. That's one, right? The second thing I like about math is, and y'all may feel me, you may not feel me, I know grams, I know ounces, and I know pounds. Man, I know them. I know them. I know how to break it down, divide it, multiply it. I know it, right? That math was fun. Addition, I loved addition. I didn't really like subtraction because, when you had 0 over the 7 and you got to cross that out, put a 10 on top of it, and then you got to take, that's too much thinking for me right there. But when I got to 7th grade and they introduced x minus y equals 1, man, I was done. I was done. All my 2-second dreams of astronautism went clean out the window. I wasn't doing no trigonometry, no astronometry, no any of the rest of the ometries. If it wasn't grams, ounces, and pounds, you know what I'm saying? And grams, if it wasn't that and a little bit of addition, I ain't doing it, right? I thought about, because my dad was a teacher, I thought about as a little kid being a teacher. But then I saw all the heartache and pain he went through, right? And I realized that dream lasted this long too. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how my wife does it. Y'all can have it. I tried it 2 months, ain't worked for me, right? Outside of that, it was only basketball or football. When basketball or football did not work out for me, that's when I gravitated hard to the streets, because I didn't see where there was anything else in life for me. I couldn't understand people that have bachelor's degrees and master's degrees and they go to college, and the thing that I would constantly hear is, I ain't got no job and I can't find no job. Hold on now. If I'm selling a product, right, I'm going to hype that product up. But if you come to me and tell me your product is bunk, why I'm going to buy that bunk weed from you? Why I'm going to buy that whack product from you? I'm not going to buy it. So for you to try to sell me a product, go to school, and you can't find no job, and you don't even like the pay you get from that job, I'm sorry, I'm not following that suit. I'm not doing that, because I'm over here going to school. I don't know how much Arkansas is like Texas, but when I was in high school in Texas, I mean, kids 15 years old, gold teeth all through the mouth. All through the mouth, system in the trunk, all the girls. I'm seeing this. I remember I'm in the middle. The piece of time I went to school, right, it would show up. I was at school and I was smoking in the bathroom, right? And I remember I just came out of the middle stall smoking a Black and Mild. And one of my homeboys, right, he comes in the bathroom and he's got a stack of money like this. 15, 16, we all the same, 15 years old. I'm like, my dude, what are you doing? What are you doing with it? Like, so he's like, man, I'm hustling. You know what I'm saying? That right there just told me everything. Incentive. You know what I'm saying? So from there, I didn't know the drug game at first. I knew the robbing game. You know what I'm saying? So I was kicking in houses, robbing folk, all that stuff. I learned the drug game while I was in prison, got out, and that's when I started the drug game stuff. But that's it. It was sports. That's it.
I have another question.
Yes, ma'am.
About the trade school, like
You say that again?
They talk about trade school now.
Yeah.
But did they talk about it then?
Yeah, my dad went to trade school. So the trade school he went to was Dobbins High School in North Philly. So I knew about trade schools from when I was a little kid. But I wasn't interested in a trade. My dad used to always try to teach me auto mechanics. Like I know how to do certain work on cars, right? You hear a lot of men, they want a woman that can cook, but it's a man that don't know how to work on no car. You know what I'm saying? So I never understood how that trade-off is, you know what I'm saying? How you don't know how to work on the car, but you expect her to cook. Negro, you need to learn how to do something over here, right? So I know how to do a number of things with a car, but I wasn't interested in going to a trade school to learn it. I did do auto mechanics in high school for about 3 days. And I got kicked out because I was in there stealing. Real sticky fingers, right? Man, if I ain't like you, I ain't know you, let me get that. I'm stealing your car, stealing everything you got, understand me? And so trade school, I wasn't interested in trade school. It was for me the fast money. See, I wasn't addicted to money. I was addicted to fast money. It's a difference. That rush and that high you get, like literally, so when I used to sell weed, like one of the things it'd be about 20 of us on the block on the corner, right? We all on one corner, right? We selling, some got heroin, some got coke, some got different types of weed, some got pills, some got this. So I'm looking at this, so I'm like, why we all sitting here standing on the same corner? Police come, they gonna round all us up. So I start walking the block, right? I'm looking at how much money is coming in a matter of seconds. You can't tell me nothing at this point. I mean, nothing. Like, when I was teaching for the Philadelphia School District, you know how much money they took out of my check for taxes? $1,000. My check was supposed to be $2,300. That joint was $1,300. When I got it, I only got 2 checks because I was only there 2 months, right? And $1,300, what am I supposed to do with this thing? I made $1,300 in 2 hours. And then I go sit in the house and chill and wait for my next pound of weed to come through the mail, hit the block, I'm off into. So it was the high off of the fast money. So trade school wasn't going to do that for me. None of that stuff was going to do that for me, right? I hit a lick one time. I hit this lick, robbery. I hit it. I got over $15,000, 4 guns, and $200-something in change, all within 30 minutes. What you ever did in 30 minutes that got you $15,000? You see what I'm saying? I was a teenager at that point. I ain't talking about in my 20s. I was a teenager. I got 2 shotguns. I got a revolver and I can't remember the other gun I got, and like $200-something in change. 'Cause I counted all, and I got $15,000. I'm a teenager, young teenager, 9th, 10th grade. I'm talking about a young teenager. What can you tell me at this point? That's why trade school wasn't interesting to me. Regular school wasn't interesting to me. I was making more money than the teachers was making. So, yeah. Sports was my thing, but once that went, it was straight streets, whatever came with it. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am, flight stewardess. The flight stewardess has a question. Y'all know she works for Delta Airlines?
Whatever, No, my question is, when did you heed the call to ministry, and what was that like, where you just realized?
All right, next question. No, I'm playing with you. I got you. So in 2008 is when God got my attention. I was 25 years old. And that's a whole story in itself, how God got my attention. I was involved in different forms of ministry for 4 years, from 2008 to 2012. I was hosting 3ABN. I was doing radio ministry. I had a radio program that I was doing once a week. I was doing Bible work, literature evangelist work. I would go on literature evangelist campaigns in different states. My parents and I, we opened up a health facility where we trained people in exercise, healthy eating, and all types of stuff like that. We for the community or whatnot to help people reverse type 2 diabetes, lower high blood pressure, all that kind of stuff. So we had our own facility. I was involved in all types of other ministry, right? I was going around the U.S. Preaching different places, sharing my story. Wrote the book, going around speaking on the jail life book. Originally I wrote it in 2011. I didn't publish it until 2020 though. But I was involved in a lot. In 2012, I felt like something was missing. I didn't know what was missing, though. I couldn't tell you what was missing, but that began the journey to figure out what was missing, right? And so I remember it was three things that happened. The first thing, as I'm contemplating, Lord, what is the next thing that I should do? I feel like something is missing. I remember I was walking down the street one day. I was walking down one of them old country streets where there's one house every 1 mile. There's more cows than there is people, and there's a bunch of trees and grass. I'm walking down this plain street. There's no car this way, no car that way, no person this way, no person that way. I'm walking down the street, having a conversation with the Lord. Literally out of nowhere, somebody appears right here, right beside me. Not walking. They just appeared. Boom, right there. Oh, yeah, it was an angel. It was an angel. Right there. All while I'm contemplating this thing of, Lord, what should I do? Instantly, he comes with the conversation, you should be a pastor. How do you know what I'm thinking? Answering your question. How do you know what I'm thinking? That's why I say it was an angel. So we have a conversation on that for about 2 minutes or whatever. I walk off, I turn around, nowhere to be found. No, again, this is a road you can see mile or two that way, mile or two that way. There's nowhere you can run to not see. So that was one. Two, shortly after that, I was over at my aunt's house, one of my aunt's house, and I was telling her that, you know, I'm trying to figure out what to do, considering pastoring or whatever, da-da-da-da-da. She gave me this old paper from the 1960s, 1970s, right? And the phrase on there was, how do you know you're called to be a pastor, right? As I'm reading everything on that paper, you know how the text says, didn't our hearts burn within us, right? I could feel the burning. That's what it is. That's exactly what I'm missing right there, right? So then that happened. So then the third thing was, I know it costs money to go to Oakwoods and all these kind of things like this. People that I didn't even know, never spoken to in my life, they were getting my phone number, they were getting my information, and they were sending me hundreds of dollars to get to Oakwood. Never met them people in my life up until that point. Never in my life had I met those people at that point. That's what confirmed that's where I was supposed to go, to pastoral ministry. So then began the journey of how do I pursue this thing, right? So I didn't want to go to Oakwood first, and I didn't want to go to Oakwood because that was a selfish reason I didn't want to go to Oakwood, right? Oakwood, I knew the caliber of black preacher that can come out of Oakwood, your E.E. Clevelands and, you know, your Walter Pearsons and all that stuff. And I'm looking at little old me, and I'm like, man, I don't measure up to none of these jokers, you know what I'm saying? I ain't trying to go to Oakwood. So I said, you know what, I'm going to try to go to WAU, which was former CUC, Columbia Union College in Maryland. I tried to go to, it's WAU now. I tried to go there first, right? Because I was like, okay, well, let me go there where at least it's the Caucasian brethren. And when they preach, they tend to preach bedtime stories. You know what I'm saying? It's like telling them. So I'm like, you know, I got enough energy that I could at least stand out a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So again, I'm just being honest with you. This is what I'm thinking, my selfish little story, right? So I'm like, I'm going to go there because I can stand out and I can get picked up. Because see, this whole process of getting picked up to pastor with a conference, it's almost like the NBA draft, NFL draft. It's like a draft. It's not that easy as we may think, right? And so, and I know Pastor Jones can attest to that, right? It's not as easy as we think. And so, and I don't have no pastors in my family. I ain't got no connection. I don't know nobody. Let me go over here with the white brethren where I can stand out. I can win over there. So I applied to WAU, and you know, things didn't work out over there. I didn't understand at that point God was just shutting all that down because God was trying to teach me a lesson in this, right? And so WAU didn't work out, didn't up it there. So I was avoiding Oakwood like the plague, man. I ain't going to nobody's Oakwood, man. And so, because I ain't going to get picked up. I don't know nobody over there, right? And so I said, you know what? I'm going to go to Andrews University. They got enough bedtime storytellers over there where I should be able to get some winning and I should be able to stand out. This is my thinking, right? This is my thinking at this point, right? And don't act like all y'all's answers and thinkings be all Holy Ghost filled all the time, because they ain't. You get that little selfish thing in you too, you know what I'm saying? And so I said, I'm going to try to go to Andrews. One thing about anybody ever been to Andrews University like for undergrad? No, Andrews is in Michigan. So Andrews is pretty good at being on time with the process of getting you accepted into their university, right? It only takes about 2 weeks with them. They are very fast, right? And so when I called them, I said, hey, I got on all my stuff. How long is it going to take? They told me like 2 weeks. We're going to have you be accepted, da-da-da. 2 months later, no response. I'm calling and calling. None of them could tell me why there had been no decision on my application. So I said, okay, God, I'll try Oakwood. Any of y'all been to Oakwood? All right. You been to Oakwood? All right. So, not to school. Okay. You went to school, Oakwood? You graduated? What year did you graduate? It's not important. So what? Thank you, Flight Stewardess. One of the running truths concerning Oakwood when I went to Oakwood in 2013 was Oakwood is very slow with their process. It's something about when they get some Negroes together, we just, we ain't. Just like, what are y'all doing? And so that was the pervading thing, is that it was gonna take a long time for the process. They're very slow to get back with you. I said all of my stuff. At that point, I was going to a community college. Whatever school I was going to go to, I was getting my prerequisites out of the way, right? And so I finished there with a 3.77 GPA, right? Mind you, I only have a GED. I only finished the 10th grade. Got my GED one of the times I was incarcerated. I stopped paying attention. I don't even know how I passed the 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, and the 10th grade because I stopped doing any work in the 6th grade. I was done. Legit done. I told you, when math got hard, I checked out the game. I'm only going because people make me go. Other than that, I ain't going. And when I hit high school and you couldn't really make me go, I barely went. I went to school probably in a year. I probably went maybe 2 weeks or whatnot. I never went. You know what I'm saying? I hated school with a passion. And so, and then all the drugs that I put in my head and everything like that, I wasn't sure how I was going to do. End up finishing with a 3.77 GPA. I sent all my stuff over to Oakwood. Within 1 week, I got accepted into Oakwood. 1 week, I get accepted into Oakwood. The following week, Oakwood then sends me an academic scholarship, which I had for the whole 3 years I was at Oakwood. I got a bunch of other scholarships while I was at Oakwood and everything like that. 4 months before I graduated from Oakwood, Northeastern Conference picked me up to pastor. I was the first one out of my entire graduating class to get hired by any conference to pastor anywhere. The whole last semester, I'm just chilling while everybody else is wondering, am I going to get a call? Where am I going to get a call from? You know what I'm saying? I had a job. That's why I knew that I was called to pastoring right there. Even though I've tried at times to walk away from it, run from it. Because here's the thing. A lot of times as pastors, some of us don't, it's not that we don't want to do it, but we want to do something else too. But sometimes for some of us, this is all we can do because this is where God keeps us at, right? I remember, oh man, what's the preacher's name? Henry Wright. Henry Wright said one time at a evangelism council, he said once that there are some pastors that's just how God is going to save us, by being in the pastoral ministry. Some of us need this. I'm not lying to you. Some of us need this, right? Because there's a lot of times when I'm not pastoring, there's a million other things I want to be doing, right? I've never just been the person, go to church, come home, I have to be doing ministry. I have to be doing something or whatnot. But long story short, or long story long, short story long, whatever, that's how the call to ministry came. Any other questions before I go through these brief slides? Yes, ma'am. And these slides, don't worry, these slides will only take a few moments.
My question is, when did you start going to church, and when did you go back to church? Because it sounds like with you being in the streets, you weren't doing any kind of churching. So tell us about that phase.
So I was born and raised Seventh-day Adventist, right? Born and raised Seventh-day Adventist. I went to prayer meeting every single Wednesday. I was at children's story, come up for the little children's story. I was in Pathfinders. I was only in Pathfinders for the trips, right? That's how I went to Jamaica in 1994. I hated the outfit, but I loved the trips, right? So I've always been connected to Seventh-day Adventism, right? Around 11 years old, that's when things started to take a turn for me. Now, I was one of those kids that I used to style myself as Aaron the Man Chancy. You know how back in the you know how back in the day, right? When you get your textbook, the first day of school and you got to put your name in it, right. All of my textbooks from the late 80s, early 90s all say Aaron the Man Chancy. Oh yeah, in big bold letters, you're gonna know I'm the man. Straight up. And so one thing was, when I was 11 years old, one of the church elders had told me, he said, you know how people ask you, what do you want to do when you grow up? I told him to play sports, and he told me, well, what are you going to do about the Sabbath? My thing was, I hated his question, because just because I'm physically in the building doesn't mean I care about this, nor does it mean that I have a relationship with God, right? You're just assuming this right now, and I'm only here because my parents dragged me to this, right? And so my thing was, you're asking me a question that I don't have a relationship with the God of the Sabbath, so why should I really care, right? I was one of those kids that, as most kids, a lot of kids sometimes, we come because our parents make us come. If I could have stayed home, I would have stayed home watching school. That's all the good cartoons was on Saturday morning. I would have stayed home playing my little old Nintendo. I would have been watching Scooby-Doo. I would have been watching Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, Smurfs, and all the rest of them, Saturday morning, Ninja Turtles and all of them. But I had to go to church, right? When that elder asked me that question at 11 years old and wasn't concerned with, did I really even have a relationship with God, that was kind of like my mental final straw of this thing, right? But because I still lived at home, I still had to go, right? So I still came, but by the time I was roughly 14, 15 years old, and especially at 15, 16, I was in and out of incarceration, so I was in the hands of the state most of the time. You couldn't really tell me anything. I'm not going. No, I have no interest at all or anything like that. And I wasn't one of those people like that would just come just to save face, just to say I was here or whatever, no. I ain't care nothing about this, nothing about it. I only called on God when I needed him to get me out of a jam, get me out of a bind, which I normally got stuck in the bind anyhow and stayed in the bind, but, I didn't, anywho. I remember one time going to church. I was 24, I think, or maybe I was 25, but I hadn't changed my life yet. I used to have a tattoo on my face that covered up this part of my face right here, right? I had to get it laser removed because church people can't handle it, right? They couldn't handle what was on my face. So I had the tattoo there. I remember one situation. I'm gonna tell you this story with it, right? Me and my homeboy, we was at the club, right? We was at the club. We was at the strip club. I didn't do dancing clubs. I don't want nobody stepping on my shoes. And so we was at the strip club. Again, I'm just being honest with how everything is, right? I was at the strip club, but we didn't go in the club this time. We was outside the club, parking lot pimping. He know what I'm talking about. He know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Y'all know what I'm talking about. So we out there talking to girls, what I'm saying, all that kind of stuff, right? I have a 24-ounce can of beer in my hand. I got a cigarette in my other hand. We got a gallon of Jack Daniels right in the car, and we got the gun in the car. And the gun, we always kept the gun. It was always on me. It was on my homeboy. It was always right there with us, right? And the gun was always loaded, always. You ain't never gonna catch us with that gun with no bullets in it, right? And so, as we're standing out there talking to the ladies, drinking, doing all these things and whatnot, so about 5 undercover cars ride past, right? None of us knew that. We didn't pay attention that they were undercover cars. Next thing we know, and I'm standing like, when the car doors open, I'm standing kind of like in between the car door open and the actual car to sit down. But I'm standing there drinking my beer or whatever. The police whip around and they turn their lights on. They park one car behind the car, one car on the side, one car on the side, one car in the front, wherever the 5th car was, right? We wasn't going nowhere. And so they grab me. They grab my homeboy. They take him over there. They grab me, and they pull me over to this side, right? They separate us two real quick. So they took my beer, poured it out or something like that. The gallon of Jack Daniels that we were supposed to have a lovely night with, they took that whole gallon and, and it's almost like your whole life is just pouring out right there. And they poured it all out, right? 5 police. 5 police, mind you. The goodness of God. I didn't see this at this point. My homeboy, and we knew this after the fact, right? I knew I didn't have the gun in my pocket. And this gun, mind you, the guns we buy are guns off the street. I've been a felon most of my life, so I couldn't go to the gun shop and buy a gun legally. All of my guns, my shotgun, all of them have come off the street. I don't know what bodies be connected to them or any of the rest of it, right? It just is what it is. And so the gun, I knew it wasn't in my pocket. I didn't know my homeboy had it in his pocket. So the police, they're searching him. I'm like, man, I hope he don't have a gun, because we're both felons. They find a gun on either of us, we gone. You know what I'm saying? We both gone. So I don't have a gun. They search him. He doesn't have the gun. They search the car. The gun, let me, you know the middle console right there? My homeboy put the gun right there. I didn't know he put it there, but that's where he put it. The console right, the middle console right there, you could literally put your hand there and grab the gun. Literally. After the police let us go, I'm coming right back to that. After the police let us go, I'm asking my homeboy, I'm like, man, where the gun at? You had the gun? He's like, nah, I ain't had a gun. Where the gun? We look right there. We literally just grabbed the gun. 5 police officers checked right there. Didn't see the gun. We was gone. Both of us was gone if they find that gun. They find that gun. I got a number of gun stories for you. But they find that gun, we are gone, right? So, I'm answering your question. Trust me, I'm answering your question. You know how, well, maybe y'all don't know how, but Charles, you know how, you go to the club, then you hanging out with your homeboys, you doing what you doing, you drinking whatever, but the police pull you over, they let you go or whatnot, and they just blow your whole high. You know what I'm talking about? Whole high blown. Man, you don't want to do nothing but just go home. High blown, alcohol, everything is blown, right? So we go home, we just head to the house. We done for the night, man. The next day, we go to church. we go to church. But let me tell you about how that went for me. Mind you, I started you off with the tattoo, right? See, the way I tell stories, I put something here, I put something here, I put something here, then I come back and I put it all together, right? Yeah, you just follow my stories, right? They're long, but I'll go somewhere. So we go to church. Man, I ain't got no church clothes. I ain't got none of this stuff or whatever, you know what I'm saying? I fall in church in my Reebok Classics, you know what I'm saying, some shorts, my white tee, but I was fresh in my white tee, you know what I'm saying? Fall in there with my white tee on and my fitted hat. None of them know that I'm Seventh-day Adventist or grew up Adventist. None of them know. So I know when I walk into a church, I'm supposed to get something. I'm supposed to get a happy Sabbath from somebody. Somebody supposed to lie to me and tell me, happy Sabbath? Happy Sabbath? I'm supposed to get that. Me and my homeboy, we come through the front door of the church. The preacher's up there doing the welcome. We came in at welcome time, right? Nobody greeted us at the door. We didn't even sit in the back. We walked down the pew. We walked down the middle of the aisle. We sat in the middle. We didn't even sit in the back. We sit in the middle, and mind you, this is welcome time. Nobody welcomes us at all. Not one. Nobody invited us over for a Sabbath. I know what I'm supposed to get when I go to an Adventist church. I know what I'm supposed to get. I got nothing. Nothing. So I sit in the middle pew area, right? I sit right on here at the edge. Y'all ever felt somebody rubbernecking? Y'all know what rubbernecking is? When you can just feel somebody burning up the side of your face like this here. Yeah. This old church lady burning up the side of my face where the tattoo was. Man, I mean, and when you can just feel somebody just staring at you. So I look like, why are you staring at me, old lady? So I feel it, and this is the only thing somebody said to me the whole time I was at church. It was her. She said, what is that on your face? I got up, I walked out. My homeboy was still in there. I was teed off. I walked out, I went down to the little corner store, went and bought me a 6-pack of beer, came right back to that church parking lot and drank all my beer right there at their church. But I was hot. That's the only time I went to church. After that, I didn't go back until God got my attention however many months or so later. Other than that, no, I stayed away from this thing. It makes a difference. And that, I was supposed to get, and I say that too because we got to be careful and mindful of the people come. Love on the people. You know, just love on. Don't worry about what they got on. Don't worry about any of that. Don't worry about that stuff. Just let folks come, you know, because you never know. Like at that, if I would have got that warm welcome and everything like that, that probably would have been the moment where I didn't have to go through more before God got my attention. That could have been the moment right there. But think about all the moments we let pass us on by. But that was my church. But when I was a kid, there was no, you know, some people say, well, you know, I would have beat you as a kid, and you know, I would have made you did right. I was one of those kids, Aaron the man Chancy, where you can't tell me anything, right? Me and my dad came close to blows multiple times. I've been kicked out of the house multiple times, right? I slept in cars, I slept in tents, I've slept in jail a whole bunch of times, you know, for missing everything on the calendar, all of it. So you can't beat me to make me come, to make me do your rules. You can't, I'll just leave the house. I don't care. I'll go right over there to Walmart, buy me a $30 tent, and I did it before, and my parents said, all right, you kicked out the house, you can't live in the house. You know what I did? Went and got me a tent, and I moved into the backyard. I'm dead serious. And I ran an extension cord to steal electricity. Oh, I'm dead serious. My mom will tell you the story. I ran me an extension cord, steal electricity, and I live right there in the backyard. Now, y'all want to kick me off the yard too? Okay, they never kicked me out of the yard, but I stayed there. But so you couldn't really, I wasn't one of those kids you could threaten with things that it's going to work on me. That didn't work. I was one of those kids, I just have to go through the process myself. You know what I'm saying? And so church just wasn't really an option for me as a kid because God to me wasn't this loving God. He was this God that kept me from being able to play basketball and football. That's all I want to do. I don't want to rob people. I don't want to shoot people. I don't want to steal nothing. I don't want to do any of that. I just want to play basketball and football. But for some reason, because Saturday is the Sabbath, I can't play because God of the Bible says so, and I'm a little kid and I don't understand that. Don't make sense to me. So God was just this big rule maker that I didn't know. I had to have my own experience. Once I had that experience, the love experience, I began to understand it more. Yes, ma'am.
That was a good segue to it. I was going to ask you about your
What was it?
Ask you your tattoos.
Yes, ma'am.
I was going to ask you, when was the first one and why did you do it?
The first one I got in 1999. You know the interesting thing about tattoos these days is that they're, it's kind of like it's a fashion thing now. You know, back in the 90s, it wasn't really, you didn't see many people like, or you had to get them in places that weren't visible. Now it's everything. Yeah, it's everywhere, you know. Yeah, it meant something, you know what I'm saying? It's just anything, you know, and so it doesn't, so I mean, society's a little different now, but the first one I got, like, I was a heavy weed smoker. Man, I smoked a lot of weed. And every time and you'll read it in my book, every time we would every time we would do a robbery, we would go get an ounce, smoke that to the dome, smoke it to, I don't know what expression y'all use around here. We would smoke the whole ounce. That's what I'm trying to tell you. We would smoke it, and you know, so I was a heavy weed smoker. And so the first tattoo I got on me in 1999 was weed and money, because money and weed was my loves. It's on my arm, it's on my shoulder right here, weed and money. Yeah, that's the first one I got. Is it 1998 or 1999? I think it was 1999. I was 16 years old. Yeah, I was 16 years old. Anybody else? Oh, did you ask me another? You asked me another question? Oh yeah, it was really just because of my passion and love for weed and money, man. I loved fast money and I loved weed. And so it was just something I got inked on me just because it meant everything to me. I was ready to sacrifice everything for those two things. You know what I'm saying? It just is what it is, you know. Any other question? Oh, give me 1 second. Mr. JoJo, you ain't on your job, man. Adam, I need to fire JoJo. I need a new employee now. Aisle 2, I need one on aisle 2. Yes, ma'am.
About the tattoos, how my son went to prison. I don't remember how many he had before he went. But then whenever I did see him, I mean, all his hands everywhere, his children's name, my name. And I'm saying, don't you know us? Won't you remember us? They had to put it on there. So I was a little bit upset.
Yeah.
That and the fact that, well, before he went in, his whole front goal, I have never been so upset in all my life. It just seemed like that was even worse than the prison thing.
Yeah.
But how if you're in prison, how do you get them?
That's a good. Listen, hey, Charles, tell her it's so easy to do all that. It's too easy. So everything that is out here is in there. It's all in there. So, I mean, it's so many ways you can make a tattoo gun. You know, you can even take like a little staple, a little piece of staple, and you can take ink from a pen and some other things, burn it, make ink out. I mean, you can get things off a commissary, the prison store, and you can take a little piece of a radio, use that as the motor. You know, it's so many ways that you can go about. Let me tell you guys something about being incarcerated. Just because people are incarcerated doesn't mean they're dumb. It's some of the brightest minds, and in prison, you have to be resourceful. You have to be resourceful because you're going to everything you have. All right, you want some alcohol? Make some hooch. Make some hooch. You're gonna get you some old oranges. Yeah, you gonna squeeze them. You're gonna let them sit up over there for a little bit. It's gonna ferment, and there you go. You can get everything. Hooch. You want alcohol. You want weed. You want any drug. You can get all of it in there. One of the prisons I was at 3 different prisons. One of them I was at it was in Beaumont. I was in Beaumont, Texas, right? And I had a guard that I was cool with. She used to bring stuff in for me, right? And so the guard, sometimes these guards they regular street people too, so just ain't been caught for what they did. So she would bring me stuff in, and I would be able to use that, sell that stuff, and da-da-da, you know what I'm saying? So or people smoke. It's a million ways to get things in, and everything that's out here, it's in there in one way, shape, or form. And so, yeah, it's easy to get tattoos. Yeah, and so a lot of what we use, we'll use like things off a commissary, like you use stamps to buy things, Jolly Ranchers, ramen noodles, all of that becomes your money. Now, I don't know what prison is like in Texas now, but when I was in the penitentiary in Texas, like, there was no smoking. You couldn't buy anything, cigarettes and all that stuff off a commissary. Still found ways to smoke. You got one phone call every 3 months. If that person didn't pick up the phone, who you called, and the call was only 5 minutes, if that person didn't pick up, you had to wait another 3 months to make a phone call or whatnot. Commissary, you could get your commissary, use it how you need to, but everything that's out here is in there. It's just you got to be more resourceful of how to do it, how to get it. Yeah, you become innovative. And again, that's where I learned, and you're reading in the book. Where you going, Lady Blue? Where you going? You coming back? You coming back? Yeah, that means she ain't coming back. It's all of it. It's cash money up in there. Things that we have out here we take for granted, that's cash money in there. That's cash. I'm coming to you. And so, again, everything that's out here is in there. Everything. One way, shape, or form. Yes, sir.
Just want to change your trajectory a little bit. After you got your master's degree, what motivated you to go on in for your doctor's degree? Because I know that's not an easy process, doing the research, and when you get to that point, having to sit before a board and the whole 9 yards. What motivated you to go on and get your doctor's degree?
There's actually a lot of things to that. I'll give you one of the main ones. Negroes, niggas. Let me explain something why I said that. Most of us that have spent time incarcerated, right? Society has a target on us. 1, we're black. 2, now we got a record. Society, it is hard to get out of that circle. It is hard to get out of that thing. But I said to myself, you know what? If I've got to symbolically put the black race on my back, just to show society that we can come from this and we can make it to a terminal degree, then I'm going to do it. That was my main motivating factor right there. Carry your Negroes on my back, because I got tired of society saying what we can't do and who we are versus who we really are and things like that. That's got me in circles. Like for the state of New York, I was pivotal in helping pass a new law in the state of New York a couple of years ago called the Clean Slate Act. Basically, where when an individual comes out of prison after a certain amount of time, their record is completely cleared. So that means they can now get better jobs, they can now get better housing. I spoke with legislature. I spoke on the steps of legislature in the capital of New York. I spoke on the City Hall steps in Syracuse, upstate New York twice, in Albany once. It's called the $1 Million Steps. I spoke to legislature. I had a meeting with legislature or whatnot, and I was able to explain to them my journey, right? There were articles written on it and everything in the state of New York. My journey, it was on the news and everything like that. Again, it was all to carry Negroes on my back so that society could see, all right, this is a person who's only got a GED, who's spent years incarcerated, who's not only got a bachelor's and a master's degree, but also went the furthest to a terminal degree. That's why I did it. That's the main reason why I did it. Because surely in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, having a doctorate degree as a pastor does not pay me any more than if I just had a master's degree. I don't get $1 more because I got a doctorate. It wasn't for money. It wasn't about money at all. It was just to carry Negroes on my back. That's it. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, just speaking off of that, I noticed like when I got my PhD, and I would go in certain circles and everything, and people would just talk, and then I say, they're like, "What do you do?" And I tell them what I have, and they just light up.
Yeah.
Did you ever get that?
Oh yeah,
as well?
all the time, because I don't really lead with I'm a pastor. I don't lead with what's his name, with what I have. I let people look at me, analyze me, and formulate whatever they formulate with. I remember one time I was in the hospital. I have something called Crohn's disease, right? And I was in the hospital because my intestines had twisted on themselves. And it was very, very painful. I had to get an NG tube put down my throat. I couldn't talk, anything like that. I'm in the hospital, and I remember I had the NG tube down my throat. I'm sitting there, and the little nurse lady, man, she was treating me bad. I couldn't say nothing because I had the NG tube. I mean, treating me bad. I mean, bad, right? And so my ministerial license was on the table area, but she hadn't seen it. I wasn't trying to show it to her. She had to go over to that table to grab something off of there, and she saw my ministerial license. She said, "Oh, you're a pastor?" Man, she changed how she treated me completely. That's one of the reasons I don't lead with this. 'Cause how are you going to treat me just seeing me? Because if I start to tell you this, and this, you're going to treat me one type of way. I ain't going to tell you nothing. I'm going to let you just think I'm just a bald-headed fool. You know what I'm saying? That just look like nobody. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, I'll let you think that for a second if that's what you want to think, right? And so I don't generally lead with it, but when I'm in certain circles where I need to vocalize it to show people and society what we can be, who we are, et cetera, that's when I invoke it, right? And then people's eyes light up, and they this and they that, and you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. So yeah, I've experienced that a whole lot, definitely. After getting the doctorate, a whole lot. Because you know, a doctorate, it's not that I get more money or anything like that, but it's a whole nother level. It's a whole nother, and the process to get this thing, man, it's a lot of work, man. It's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. You know, man, I was so nervous going before the dissertation board, man, and trying to defend my dissertation. My dissertation is like 139 pages, and it really is that off, man. That joint took me so long to write. Talking about, really, is that all? Weren't you going home? Bye-bye. But yeah, I've had that. It gives a lot of credibility. So when I need to share it, I do share it, or I'll share it in circles to give people hope. I never share it just to say I have a doctorate. You know, yeah, it's just, I want to encourage people, man, you know, that, hey, you can do it. And a lot of times when I share my testimony, it's really because it's a lot of parents out there that have children that are still out there. And I try to highlight what my parents did and how long they did it for, you know, before God got my attention, right? So I try to encourage, and I know I put a lot of humor into my story because, you know, the reality is, you know, when I was going through it, it wasn't funny. Certain things just weren't funny. But when I look back at it, I gotta laugh, man. I've been to jail because, you know, I broke into a restaurant, right? and I couldn't get the cash register open, so I just stole the whole cash register, the entire cash register, and I ran out with the whole cash register. And I got to the house and I broke the cash register, and it was $200-something. And I chuckle now because you're crazy. You were willing to risk everything for $200? You know what I'm saying? So certain things you chuckle about. Yeah, certain things were fun. I mean, I wouldn't have been doing it if it wasn't fun. But the main point I try to get people about my testimony is that God is in the restoring and the redeeming business, period. There's humor in it. There's ups, there's downs. But there's a God in there that restores, redeems, and changes, right? That's the main highlight of it. Any other questions or comments? And again, these slides aren't going to take me long, so I didn't mind answering people's questions. All right, so core value and mission. This is just a little bit about, like I say, the mission and the values that my wife and I have when it comes to ministry. I'm not going to read all these little bitty things hard to see because you're going to see them right here. The first one is family. Spending time with family, taking trips, personal engagements. Family is big to me. Family is humongous to me, man. I love spending time with my wife. I love spending time with the kids. I love it. I love you guys as kids, love y'all and stuff like that, but I love my wife. Did she send you a text message or anything yet? She ain't send you. Tell her to send a text message, say, I love you back or something like that. I want that message, yeah. And so, yeah, family is big to us. And one of the things that, you know, our family is kind of spread around places, right? So my mom is in Hawaii. So I know a lot of people look at Hawaii vacation area. I lived in Hawaii as a kid. I've been to Hawaii so many times, you know, a lot of times. So it's just, I have family in Hawaii. So I just, you know, I want to go see my mom. I go to Hawaii. Did she say I love you, though? There you go. Thank you. I love you, too. I love you, too. I love y'all. So family is very, very, very important to us. My wife's mom lives in Florida. And so, you know, you're going to find different times we're going places. But, you know, we got to see kids. We got to see parental figures. You know, we really, truly believe in family, right? We believe in upholding the family even in the church. The next thing is evangelism. Listen, Elder Ballantyne, where you at? Elder Ballantyne knows just this morning I came over to him. I came over doing Sabbath school. I said, Elder Ballantyne, we going out doing some door-to-door this week. We're going to talk later. Let me know what time you're ready. I love evangelism. Public evangelism, private evangelism, door-to-door. I love evangelism, right? I love talking to people. I love interacting. I love seeing that journey that people go on, especially when that light flickers in their brains like, oh, snap, I didn't know that. When they're seeing things in the Bible and they're getting that hope and that joy and they're learning. You remember when you first got that fire of being Adventism and you learned about the 2,300 days and all this stuff and you want to tell the whole world, I still got that. I ain't lose that. I haven't lost it, right? And so I'm very big on evangelism, going door-to-door, public meetings. And you notice in there, in the heart of the hood. I like to be in the hood, right? Don't put me in, that's right, don't put me in no, you know, and man, I can't do it. I want to be in the hood. I want to be where the bullets is flying, where all the stuff is happening, where the drugs is being sold. That's where I want to be, in the ghetto. That's just where I want to be. Oh, somebody's at the door. Oh, that's my Spanish, y'all. Just add an O at the end of everything, and that's Spanish. All right. Evangelism is huge to me. Next thing, I'm pointing at that one. I'm supposed to point at that one. Next one is spiritual growth, right? What do I mean by spiritual growth? Assessments, going the next level in one's spiritual walk, right? Sometimes in our spiritual journey, we find ourselves getting stuck, right? And we don't read the Bible anymore. We don't have any depth to it. And we just got caught in this circle of going to church, going home, going to church, going home. I like to give assessments, do assessments. I like to help people have a deeper understanding of the Bible, relationship. So there's a lot of things that we're going to be training on, teaching on to help get you there if you're interested in going deeper and deeper and deeper. And so spiritual growth is very big to us, right? The next thing is children and youth. Make sure that they have a strong voice in the church. Truly believe in, sometimes we say the children and the youth are the future. No, they ain't. Yeah, they now. Because if it's going to be the future, when that future going to be? At what point is that future? The future was, 10 years ago we said the same thing. All right, we're at the future. Where the youth? Because y'all put it all, not y'all, but I'm just saying, people put it in the future as opposed to right now, you know. So right now, so I'm very big on finding the youth. You could ask Lady Blue and her good friend, Sister Erin. One of the first things that I asked Lady Blue for was a list of all of the young people that attend this church, that haven't attended in a long time, and that attend sporadically. They got me a list that it's all broken up in those 3 categories. Tomorrow we're going over some of that list so we can start to get numbers and everything for them, so we can start going to these young people to get them young people back here in this church, right? And JoJo, how you end up way up there? How you gonna take the mic around, JoJo? Nah, you good. Nobody needed the mic, JoJo. You good, you good. But even like I just met JoJo 2 weeks ago, right? JoJo gave me his number today, and we going to play basketball. I was talking junk to him 2 weeks ago. We going out there on that court this week. I'm going to show him what a 42-year-old man about to do on that basketball court. I got one good game in me. But we going to play. No. But that's what I mean. I like to, yes, sir, Elder Valentine. You want to play basketball too? Oh. He stood up at basketball time. He's on your team. I don't want him on my team. What were you about to say, Elder Valentine? Oh, you can ref the game or something. We don't really need you in the game. I think he's going to move a little too slow for us, JoJo. But I'm saying that because I enjoy connecting with young people and just having fun, right? Just really having fun. Y'all remember, how many of y'all remember Atari? You said that with pride. Atari was one joystick. See, I'm 42, I came up on the tail end of Atari, right? There was Atari, and then right after that was Nintendo. Y'all remember Nintendo? It was A, B, up, down, left, right, select, start. That was all the buttons you had on there. I can show you how to beat Mario 1 in about 5 minutes. I know every warp zone on that game. Yes, sir. Elder Valentine, don't tell me you used to play Nintendo. Hey, that's the most I've seen Elder Valentine come alive about a video game. Elder Valentine, we gonna play some video games. That man stood up and said he could beat me. Hey. We gonna have to see about that Valentine, Elder Valentine. I got a Nintendo too. And so, there you go. That's all right. I'd have beat him back in the day. Listen. Oh, yeah, I would. I beat him now and then. Listen, here's what y'all going to find out about me. I talk a lot of junk. I talk a lot of junk. We're going to leave it right there. I talk a lot of, listen, even if I don't know how to play something, I'm going to talk junk. That's how a lot of my fights got. That's how I got in a lot of fights back in the day, was just running my mouth, man. Just don't know when to close my mouth. But because I'm gonna try to trick you out to win. You know what I'm saying, by talking to junk, right? Anyhow, children and youth, very important. I very much love, and my wife, we love connecting with young people. We love pouring into young people and things like that. So very important to us. Next thing is community engagement. Being on a first name basis with those in the community, being a community pastor, et cetera. I've always been fascinated ever since I was a kid, with things like the civil rights movement and seeing how pivotal the church was within the civil rights movement, right? And so there's a book that I had when I was at Oakwood. It kind of gave the history of the Adventist church, how during the civil rights movement, in a lot of it, we took the eschatological approach saying, listen, we're looking at the end times, and we didn't get involved in a lot of grassroots things right here where we needed to, as Dr. King and some of the others did. And that's not to say we didn't do anything, but the Adventist mindset was looking towards the second coming of Christ, right? And so I was always fascinated, though, how the church was that place where the community came to get encouragement, information, marching orders, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's always stood out to me to be a community pastor. Like, one of the things that we're going to be doing as we go door to door this week is I like to go door to door just to introduce myself as, hey, I'm Pastor Chancy, new pastor of such and such church. Maybe you have Maybe you don't have a home church, and maybe you have somebody that's incarcerated. Maybe you have somebody that's in the hospital. I'm available to go visit them, right? Or maybe, there's a funeral and you don't have anybody to eulogize your family. I'm available for that. So I like to make myself available to the community outside of just giving a Bible study to. You see what I'm saying? So community engagement is very, very important. Elder Valentine, you better have them shoes on this week now. I'm about to walk you. I'm about to walk you, dog. We about to walk. How many miles you got in you, Elder Valentine? How many? All right, we're going to use all of them on this week. All of them. All right, community engagement. Next one is culture of praise. What do I mean by that? I know y'all can't see the little small words up there, but it's okay. I'm going to read them. Rolling out the red carpet for people, monthly and quarterly praises to volunteers. What do I mean by that? Because, see, and I'm not, even with this, I'm not talking about music right here in the culture of praise. I'm talking about, for instance, and I'm just going to use it, Lady Blue does a lot. Lady Blue does a whole lot, and I know because I communicate with her during the day. I ask her, like, for instance, this suit that I'm wearing right here, she took this to the cleaners for me, dropped it off at the cleaners, and I had it here to be able to wear today. Because in this going back and forth, it's easier for me to leave certain things, certain places. A suit that I wore last week at Sharon Church, she dropped that off for the cleaners for me. And so I'm saying that because I think it's important as a leader and leaders to highlight people of the church as everybody's doing something, right? No matter what it is. But I think creating that culture of thank you, of praise, and giving people something tangible that can use. So like I ain't got no gift for you now because I ain't got no money. But one day when I do have a gift, when I do have a gift, like I'm gonna give you money not because you asked for it, but just simply because it's tangible, and I appreciate everything you do in going out of your way for me and my wife. You see what I'm saying? I like to create that type of thing in churches, to where, one of the last churches, 2 churches ago when I pastored this church, I went and bought, and this isn't to praise me, this is only to give you an example of what I'm talking about here. I went and bought several $100s of gas cards just for my church members. I'm always asking them to do this, to do this, to do that. That wasn't church money. That was all my money. It was my money. I went and bought, man, like 50 or so gas cards and just gave them money. I bought, and I had different levels of things. I went and bought, I had these exotic candles made for church members. So I had several real exotic candles made, like handmade. I'm not talking about I went to the store. I had them handmade, and I bought them, and I gave different people different things based on different levels or whatnot. So every department head got money from me. Some got candles and money and different things like that. But I told them when I got there, I want to create a culture of praise, because I get paid for this. You're volunteering, right? Most of you are volunteering. And so I want to show you I appreciate you. So beyond me just saying thank you, I try to create cultures of praises in the church. Because let's be honest, to be told, hey, I appreciate what you're doing, it feels good. It feels good to know that somebody cares about what I'm doing in the church. And so I like to try to create those culture of praise and thanks for what we're all doing. Because if you guys don't show up to church, all I'm going to do is preach to the pews. That's it. I can't do this without you. So it's imperative for me as the leader of the church to lead out in thanking you and showing you those things that I'm really thankful for. So culture of praise. Man, what happened? Oh, I'm pushing the wrong button. My bad. Next one is Bible and Spirit of Prophecy. I believe that both of these are very relevant to the day, and you will hear both, right? The Seventh-day Adventist Church it's a movement, right? And, when you understand the roots of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, going back William Miller and beyond, this is a special church. It's a very special church. And I think a lot of our churches have gotten away from the Spirit of Prophecy. And a lot of that is because it's either been used wrong, taken out of context, beat over people's heads, And so what I like to do is I like to show people, I do this class called Bible U, short for Bible University, where I show people how to not only break down the Bible, but use context and everything when it comes to the Spirit of Prophecy, when it comes to the Bible. So I teach simple Greek and simple Hebrew. I teach hermeneutics. I teach a lot of things so that you can go deeper with things, but you're gonna learn more about the Bible as well as the Spirit of Prophecy for as long as I'm here. Those are 2 important things to me. Those are 2 things that are very important to this church as a movement. right? The next one is trust, being vulnerable and open with the church, right? Again, you know, my life is not cookie cutter. I have no problem telling you I've been locked up. I have no problem telling you I've been married, I've been divorced, had kids as teenagers. I have no problem telling you these things, right? Here's the thing. The conference that hired me, Southwest Region, they already know all this stuff anyhow. So there's nothing really you can call the conference and say, you know what, Pastor Chancy, he was married before, and why is he here now, and da-da-da-da-da. They already know that. Thank you. And so the thing is, it's life, man. Life has its ups and downs. And so I just believe in being vulnerable, because for me, when I'm vulnerable, I feel like you can trust me more. Yeah. So, I'm not expecting you to pour out your everything to me as I do, but I just believe in being vulnerable. And if you want to weaponize it against me, okay, cool, that's fine. I mean, I gave it to you. You do what you want with it. But, it's, where's Charles at? Charles dipped out? Yeah, I didn't see him go. I must have been turning around like this, and that man done sneaked out on me. I'm going to call Charles and get on him. But Charles called me yesterday, and I said it on the baptism. I'm not going to tell you guys our conversation, but Charles needed that conversation yesterday. And he needed to hear part of my journey to know that he wasn't alone. I didn't know that. I was just speaking on things as, you know what I'm saying? Exactly. And when we got, he was like, man, I needed that. I'm ready for tomorrow. So a lot of my vulnerability, too, is to help somebody else out. We all have gone through things. We've all had failures, successes, or whatever. So I don't say this stuff to build myself up or anything like that. It's simply to be vulnerable and open with you guys. That's it. Trust. Next thing is local church growth, numerical and spiritual. And so, yeah, I'm not really one that's just into baptizing just to make it a car wash, right? Where they go in the water and then come out, right? I believe in numerical and spiritual growth. So that's going to look a lot of different ways, which I don't have time to go into right now. But I believe in growing the church numerically, where this church is packed out, where we don't have room enough to grow, where we got to build something else or whatever. But also, I'm not interested in just having a lot of people that are not spiritual, that are not growing in their spiritual journey and walk. And I don't want just people. Yeah, I don't want just spectators. We've got to get you to the next level, and the next level, discipleship, right? So I believe heavily in that when it comes to the local church. Collaborations with organizations, building bridges and not walls. I ain't no wall builder. I don't know how to do masonry and all the rest of it. If you want me to build a wall, trust and believe it's going to fall down. However, I'll build a bridge. Not no literal bridge, because it's going to fall down too. But I believe in connecting with organizations. A lot of my pastoring, that's what I spend a lot of time doing, is merging the church with the community through community organizations, which it worked out phenomenally, right? And my wife and I, we have this logo we have made for us, because we're both heavy into bridging the community. So it basically takes it's like a city, like city buildings, then there's a cross, and then there's the church or whatnot. And so that cross is acting like a bridge from the community to the church or whatnot. And that's just something that my wife and I believe heavily in, is community collaborations. And so things like me going over to, what's the name of that college? Philander. Yeah, so there was a lot of things that I did before I came here to get installed. I reached out to different organizations, the LaFell. That's how I knew about the gentleman, Virgil Miller. I reached out to the mayor's office. Y'all heard me 2 weeks ago. I just connect. I just start connecting, and, wherever those connections lead. But it's not about me just connecting with them. It's about getting the church connected too. Because the thing about being a Seventh-day Adventist pastor, you give us 3 to 5 years, we bounce into somewhere else. And so the church has to get connected to these things so that the church stays connected even when the pastor is gone, right? And so it's very important to me to make community collaboration. 10 years. You said 3 to 5. 3 to 5 what? Of what? Oh, yeah, she did say that, yeah. Yeah, she did say, no, so it's an inside joke thing, but what it is, Because the more is 8 years old, and so staying here 10 years, she would be 18 years old or whatnot, you know, and ready to go off to college. That's why my wife was saying 10. I was lost at first when you said, that went smooth over my bald head at first, but I got it. I got it. So community collaborations with organizations. The next one is businesses, right? Creating businesses for the local church that the church and community can thrive. Now, what do I mean by that, right? A lot of churches are often broke with no money. And a lot of churches are often calling the conference needing money and different things like that, right? So one of the things that I was trying to do at one of my previous churches is build a couple of businesses that the church owned, right? And so we started it, but I wasn't able to finish it. So we were starting a clothing line, right? Where we were designing Mount Carmel church shoes, sneakers. We were designing pants. We were designing shirts, hats. We were designing all of it. And so I had a business meeting to get a brick and mortar store. We were going to do a brick and mortar store as well as a online store as well. That was one of the ventures. Also, we were looking at opening up like I can't remember what these things are called, but you rent out spaces where people come and work for the day or whatnot. So we were looking at doing that as a church. So there were a number of, something like that. Co-working space, that's what it is, co-working space. So there were just certain businesses. In short, I like to try to create businesses where the church doesn't have to beg the conference for money, right? The church isn't struggling, but the church is able to take these businesses and not just make money, but now you're able to turn around and employ, basically like this. You're able to give people from the community 3-month internships. Let them come and intern, right? So they can learn the business, learn a trade, whatever it is, and then they can go out there and create their own business. But also you're ministering to them at the same exact time. So these businesses weren't just about money. It's also about getting closer to people, providing something right here in the community for people. And so that's what I mean by businesses and things like that. It's about, it helps to get money for the church, but it also helps to give people in the community something as well, right? And so I'm very big on making connections to start businesses and things like that for the church. Another one is education. I'm almost done with these. Like I said, they're real short. Education, lifelong learner, right? And I'm not necessarily just talking about school, but I'm always looking to learn something new. Always looking to learn something new. I don't walk around thinking that I know everything because I don't know everything. I learn something new pretty much every single day. And I'm a lifelong learner. I believe in education. Visitation, visiting the members no matter where they are. I like to come see you. You know, if you don't want to let me in the house, that's your prerogative. But that's not going to stop me from coming, and I'll let you, keep me out. How you going to keep the pastor out the door, man? The pastor done showed up at the door. Yeah, keep knocking. I'm like Jesus. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. Is you going to open up or is you ain't? You know what I'm saying? But I believe heavily in visitation. So, you're going to see my wife and I go around and, come and visit the members. And, I remember back in the day when I was a little kid, when I used to be at church when I was a kid and I would sleep through the whole sermon and everything like that. The pastor had 5 minutes to intrigue me. 5 minutes, right? I would sit up there with my little watch, my little Nintendo watch, and not Nintendo watch, my computer calculator watch. And they knew they had 5 minutes to get my attention. If they didn't hit the mark in 5 minutes, I went to sleep. Dead to sleep, head back, snoring and all. You're boring me right now, right? And so the one thing that always stood out to me about a pastor is a visiting pastor. One that came to my house that actually cared about who I was, what I was doing during the week, and how I was doing. That's what stood out to me. That's one of the things that I've always admired about pastoring is the visitation element. So again, if you don't let me in, that's your prerogative, but you can't say I didn't come. Thank you. Next one, dynamic worship. Have our hearts not burned within us, right? I love some dynamic worshiping. I'm talking about where the music is flowing, the preaching is good, the interaction is good, the food is good. Everything about the worship service is phenomenal, right? One thing I like about this church, right, this church gets to the point with worship, you know what I'm saying? Like we hit the we hit the music, we hit the word, we hit the prayer, we hit all of these things, and it just feels very good. Like it's not a bunch of stuff that's just put there just as time fillers, right? It's just flowing and the worship is good. And so I'm very much a lover of dynamic worship, right? All right, next one, innovation, creating new methods and ways relevant to today to reach souls. One of the statements that Ellen White makes, right, in the book Evangelism is she talks about how we need to invent new ways to reach people, right? Sometimes we get stuck on, our methodologies from 20 years ago. Yeah, it's 20 years later. So, we kind of have to adapt and we have to adjust and we have to change. You don't have to change the message, but the methodology. The model has to adjust and change, And here's the thing, church is ministry, but it's also a business at the same time. What business do you know that ain't trying to keep up with? Yeah, a business is supposed to be innovative. If a business wants to stay around, it's got to be innovative. It's got to survey the field. It's got to do its research. It's got to do things in order to grow financially and everything like that, right? A lot of times with churches, we don't do that because we look at it from a one-track mind of a ministry. It's a ministry and a business. All right, you don't think it's a business? Whoever pays these bills over here, don't pay them for 6 months and see if your ministry. See in 30 days, see if your ministry is still right here for you to get into. It ain't, right? So it's a business and a ministry. So being innovative in the way that we reach people, I think is very important. Transparency, showing each person what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So, I'll tell you what I'm doing during the week, and most of the time you're not going to find me just sitting at home watching TV, right? Football season is done right now, so I'm all yours, right? When football season comes back over, I'm either coming over your house or we going somewhere, we watching the game because we're going to get some interaction in. But I'm not one that just sits around and does nothing. I can't do that, you know what I'm saying? So you're going to know what I'm doing. I have no problem telling you. If you want to know what Pastor Chancy's doing during the week, I'll show you my schedule, no problem. Every day this week, next week, I got something to do, so I'm not just going to be sitting at home sucking up electricity. So I'm very transparent, though. Prayer, making sure everything is bathed in prayer. I think that is very, very important, right? There's no point of trying to doing all this stuff and we ain't had no prayer, right? Definitely, I very much believe in prayer. This is the last slide right here, personal mission. Right, this is my personal mission to you, to create a church where the members are growing, intergenerational ministry is taking place, and intergenerational ministry is my concentration for my doctorate, but I'm not going to explain all that right now. To create a church where the members are growing, intergenerational ministry is taking place, and the community feels welcome to be part of the Shiloh Seventh-day Adventist Church while also welcoming us as a community church. That is our mission to you guys while we are here at Shiloh Seventh-day Adventist Church. Amen. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord. Any questions before we wrap up? It's 5:17. Any questions? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. To here. All right. So I'm gonna back up to go forward. I'm gonna put my car in reverse to go forward, right? So for about 7 months, like I say, I stopped pastoring. I was still involved in ministry stuff, but I stopped pastoring. I wasn't sure if, I was going to go back to pastoring, I was just dealing with a lot. I was dealing with a lot personally, just trying to figure some things out, right? Yeah, I was grieving. And I didn't even know at that point how hard the grief was, and grief just isn't this linear thing. It's, and it would just hit me at times. My dad ain't here. I can't, my dad was that person. When Aaron is in trouble, or my dad never bonded me out of jail, but he would drive half the country to come see me. You know what I'm saying? My dad would drop everything to come to wherever Aaron is, right? He never bonded me out, not one time. But I'm just saying, he was that one. So when you lose that, man, it's an empty space, and there's nothing that fills that empty space, And so anyhow, there was a lot. And then sometimes in ministry too, and I didn't realize it so much, in pastoral ministry, you're often pouring so much into everybody else, it's easy to forget yourself, right? And don't worry, I'm answering your question, I'm just going backwards to go forward. In 2020, I had lost one of my good friends growing up. He was executed by lethal injection in the federal prison. We grew up together, and the last 4 years of his life, he grew up born and raised Seventh-day Adventist. The last 4 years of his life, I was his personal minister. And so I would go into the federal death row prison. I would minister to him. I was inside of the death chamber right next to him when they executed him. You're not really going to meet many people who have been inside of the death chamber. That is I had to give you that experience at another time. That is a different out of this world experience. And you have the death house and you have the death chamber. The death house is where the news reporters are. No, the family of the deceased is there. News reporters, where they administer the medicine, family of the individual being executed. That's all the death chamber. The death house is where the individual is laying on the thing, waiting for the thing. I was in the death house. I was right next to him, right? And that was my childhood friend. I was only able to be his minister on record because Northeastern Conference, they vouched for me as a pastor. The federal government, waived my little felonies, you know what I'm saying, and let me into the prison. That's a whole story right there. I'll get into that another. That's a whole story of how I even miraculously got in there. And so, because I was still pastoring at that time, though, I never really had a time. I would cry from time to time, but just to sit with it, and I had gone through divorces in ministry, but I just had to keep going. There was so much that piled up on me. You know what I'm saying? So much that piled up on me, but I had to keep going and keep going. And then there's 100 church members that need my attention. And then I got to do evangelism, and I got to do this, and I got to do that. And I was tired. I was tired. And then I lost my dad. That was just like the straw, man. That was just like I need some time. And then Shakara and I we got more closer. And the thing was, all right, let's get married. And I didn't want to go back into pastoral ministry without a dedicated spouse. I did not want to. I did not want to. I've been in that too much, and that is painful on a million levels, right? And so that was important. So after about maybe 4 or 5 months, I started feeling this. I started feeling that it's time to get back into pastoral ministry again, right? I started feeling that. And so, I had reached out to Allegheny East Conference, which Philadelphia takes in part of Allegheny East. And so I was trying to just pastor there, just stay there. But I wasn't getting, people were telling me they were going to call me back and different things like that. And it just didn't happen. All the while, for about 3 months, Dr. Bird was working something out, right? I didn't know all of what he was doing. I didn't even talk to him. I was talking to one of my friends, and one of my friends talked to him. I didn't talk to him. And so Dr. Bird and I have known each other for over 10 years now, for about 12 years. And so he ended up calling me. There's really not much you can tell Dr. Bird about because he knows all of my little dirt. He knows all of it. You know what I'm saying? I shared it with all of them or whatever. I shared it with all of them. And that's the thing. I'm going to be honest with you. You got to make the decision what you want to do with the honesty, right? And so after we talked, Dr. Bird there were 4 churches he gave me, a list of 4 cities. Sorry, not churches. I didn't know the church. He gave me 4 cities. And it wasn't for me to really choose. He just said 4 cities. The first city he said was Little Rock, Arkansas, right? But then he told me, and I'm just giving you the process. Then he told me Little Rock, Arkansas that's not going to happen, right? That's what he told me. Little Rock is not going to happen. That's not going to happen. There's too many politics that he would get from other people about Little Rock. So I said, okay. I didn't know anything about Little Rock. I never knew nothing about Little Rock other than Bill Clinton from Little Rock, and I done drove through Little Rock to get gas. I knew nothing about it, right? So he said, because of politics, he said, because of politics, you're not going to end up, I'm not going to send you to Little Rock, right? So, okay. So the next one on there was New Orleans, Louisiana, right? I know New Orleans. I used to be in New Orleans all the time, right? I know the streets of New Orleans. There's a lot I used to do in New Orleans, right? So that was an option. But I wasn't feeling like, I wasn't feeling like I'm not feeling that, right? The next one was Texarkana, Texas, right? Texarkana. But Texarkana was more of a personal move. It was not spiritual. Again, I'm just being honest with you. It was closer to my brother. It was closer to my brother, closer to my cousin, closer to my youngest daughter. It was closer to family. Right? But it wasn't a God, where do you want me thing. You get what I'm saying? So the other one was Albuquerque, New Mexico. Now, Albuquerque was high on my list. Here's why. Albuquerque was high on my list because I never knew, again, I grew up in Texas. I was a part of Southwest Region as a kid. I never knew Southwest Region extended all the way to Albuquerque, New Mexico. I thought it finished pretty much in Dallas, you know what I'm saying, or San Antonio, and that's, the rest of it, you don't get nothing else, I never heard of y'all back in the day in Little Rock at camp meeting. When I used to go to Lone Star for camp meeting, y'all been to camp meeting out there, Lone Star back in the 90s, when it was dusty out there? I don't know, is it still dusty out there? Man, listen, I used to fall in camp meeting back in the 90s, man. I remember one camp meeting, I fell up in there I had a white polo hat on. Man, that joint I had on some white polo shoes. I had some polo shorts on, a polo. Man, I was fly. I was only coming there to talk to the young ladies. Yeah, that was me. Man, listen, by the end of the day, probably an hour after the day, everything was brown, dusty. But I never heard of y'all at camp meeting back in the day. All I knew was I was in San Antonio. So the main churches was Ephesus in San Antonio. In Dallas, it was City Temple back in the day. It was Grace Temple in Fort Worth, right? And then in New Orleans, it was Ephesus, it was Caffin Avenue, and over in West Bank. You know what I'm saying? I never heard of y'all at camp meeting, so I ain't know nothing about Little Rock. So I had no clue that Southwest Region extended all the way to Albuquerque. Man, I wasn't nothing at that point. I wasn't nothing. I stopped Pathfinders after I went to Jamaica in 1994. I was done wearing that monkey suit, right? I was completely done. I said no more for Pathfinder. I can't do it no more, right? I never heard of So Albuquerque, New Mexico, it excited me because one, I didn't know it was part of the conference, and two, it was not a place that has gotten a lot of attention in terms of building up the work, right? When I started to hear about Little, I thought this church was like in the suburbs somewhere. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want nobody. I wouldn't want Little Rock in here. I didn't know nothing about Little Rock. Never heard of nothing here, and so I just thought it was like, rich white politicians. I mean, that's where Bill Clinton come from. I didn't even know y'all had black people in Little Rock. I'm dead serious. I knew this much about Little Rock. Yeah, I knew nothing about it, and I hadn't watched Banging in Little Rock yet because I didn't know I was coming to nobody's Little Rock. So why am I going to watch something that I don't even know about, right? And so Albuquerque was like an opportunity to build up what hadn't been seen there before because it's not gotten any attention. So when my wife and I interviewed or whatnot, we were sharing more about us with the administration or whatever. The administration was asking us questions and things like that. Little Rock, again, was nowhere there because Dr. Bird had already said no to Little Rock, right? So here's what ended up happening. After we got off the interview, the administration felt like we were the right people for Little Rock, right? They felt we were the right people for Little Rock. So Dr. Bird calls me a couple of days later. He called me about 3 days later, and he said, we're going to send you to Little Rock. I said, Dr. Bird, I thought you said that was out. I thought you said that was off. And he said, no. So he told me the little background story of it. And so right then, I began to research Little Rock, right? And that's Banging in Little Rock and everything else that came with it. I remember a few days later texting Dr. Bird, and I said, I can see how God moved in this to move here to Little Rock, Arkansas, right? Because everything that I saw, again, I thought this was just white politicians here. I didn't think there was no black. I didn't think this was, you know what I'm saying? But everything that I saw with Little Rock, with Sharon Church, because it was a 2-package deal, and well, I should say 3 because the church school too. And mind you, I've never pastored more than 1 church at a time. I've never had 2 churches in the school ever. And so when he said that to me and I began researching or whatnot, I could see the movement of God in it, to why it was important to be in Little Rock as well as important to be in Sharon, important to be a part of the school. I could see it, and all I could say was, Dr. Bird, I appreciate you being, receptive to the Spirit. I could show you the text message, right? And sending us to Little Rock because this place needs us, right? That's how it came about. And so for me, it was all about, you know, God, you know what my wife and I bring to the table. Where can we be used the best at? Forget what I want, forget where I want, where can we be used best? And you know, when you surrender to God, he's going to give you that, even what you didn't think of. I didn't think Little Rock at all, only because of what was said to me at first. That's it. And so once that came about, then somebody's at the back door trying to get in. I accepted it. Have done a lot of groundwork on Little Rock and Sharon as well, and that's how it all came about. Yeah, that's how it all came about. And I'm glad. I told Dr. Bird last weekend. I texted him again last weekend, and I said to him, I said, you know, I appreciate you, you know, sending us here to both of these churches, because this is a great move for us. Very great move, right? Because, like, when you look over there, what does everybody see right there? Like, you see, like right there in that whole area, what do you see? I don't see empty space like that, right? Yeah, I see things. I see things that what they can be, what they will be. I don't look for things that already are. Don't send me to a church that already is and everything like that. Send me to where I have to see it all by faith. This church, there's a lot to be seen by faith. And when I have to exercise that, that's all the more tells me that's where I need to be. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. Gotcha. Gotcha. Amen. 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 Let God lead. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Hard work. Yeah. Praise God. Amen. 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 Oh yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's definitely a blessing. You know, my journey. I remember when I'll say this story, and if there's no other questions, we can wrap up. But you know, this pastoral ministry has been a lot of ups and downs, in different ways. You know, I got hired by Northeastern. I went to pastor in Queens first, and then I went to the Bronx. I remember when I finished the seminary, finished my MDiv, I went back to Texas. The conference couldn't find a church for me, right? Because, well, I don't know the details of why, but they couldn't find a church for me at that point. Yeah, I know why. Because of my background. They were trying to find where was a good fit for my background. So I ended up driving up to New York City. You know, they were like, come up. This was January of 2019. I drove up, and when I didn't know where I was going church-wise or anything like that. I drove up. When I was coming through D.C., the then president, Daniel Honore, who passed away a couple of years ago, he called me and said, we're going to send you to Queens to a church called Village Seventh-day Adventist Church. So I went to Village, and what he told me was I was only going to be at Village for no more than about 2 months. I never got installed there. I was just introduced there. I was an associate pastor there. And I was only supposed to be there for about a month or two. And then I was going over to Linden Seventh-day Adventist Church, also in Queens. And that's where I was actually going to be the associate pastor at, was at Linden. What ended up happening, though, is because of my background and because I had just gone through a divorce about 2 years earlier, Linden didn't want me, right? And they told the conference, we don't want him. The funny thing is, a few years later, when I went there to share my testimony or something, and then they wanted me, but it was too late, right? They judged me off of what they had heard, right? And so they didn't want me. And see, that hurts. You know, there's a lot of arrows we take in different ways. We all take them. But to be told, like, you know, we don't want you because of your journey, whether something is my fault or isn't my fault, life has happened, this has happened, that's happened. But to be told we don't want you, man, that hurts, man. That hit, you know, that hit. Yeah, exactly, and I had to just suck it up, and because you know, the president had called me and it was like, you know, they don't want you, da 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 da, and then he called me back a few months later and he said, we're gonna send you over to the Bronx, or whatnot, and so they kind of always had to find places that people can accept my background. Come on, church folk, we all gotta. You know what I'm saying? We all got a background up in here. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just like, so it's been a journey. You know, it's been a journey. It's been a fun journey. It's been a hard journey. It's been an easy journey. It's been varied things. But what I am excited, and there's a lot more in there, and I'll tell you all that stuff at another point. But I'm excited that my wife and I are able to come and do this together. And minister to you guys, to the community. I know it's going to be a challenge, but we don't mind the challenge. We don't mind the challenge. We're both supportive of each other. Even in the back and forth, we're supportive of each other. You know, even though my wife she physically went to church today, she still had Zoom pulled up and had it in her earpiece while she was sitting in church so she could be part of this service, so she could hear me preach and everything. Very supportive, you know, and I've never had that in ministry before. I've never had that before. You know what I'm saying? And so it is a blessing to have that support, that love, that teamwork, and to have a church that appears to understand and accept. And I appreciate that, you know. Lady Blue, your Blue Zone for the rest of the day. But I enjoy you guys, and I just thank you guys for accepting me and accepting us. Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. And it happened in like 3 weeks. Amen. Amen.
Coming and working with the members here at Shiloh.
I told y'all she keep watching and sending all these text messages. my wife and Lady Blue text all the time, and there's a few other people that she texts her as well. I don't know who had their hand up first. There's two individuals. JoJo, you ain't on your job, man. You up there looking on social media, JoJo. Let me give JoJo. Can you bring the mic down for the gentleman in the back? I'm gonna give her this mic.
This mic is on. Okay, Pastor. I want to know, when is your birthday?
When is my birthday? I don't have one. What? Which mic am I? Oh, there we go. Number one, stop snitching. All right, so here's how we'll do my birthday. My birthday is actually today if you're giving me something. If you're not giving me anything today, my birthday is October 3rd. October 3rd. Is that when your birthday is? That's all right. Happy birthday. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. October 3rd into his house. The gentleman right there, yeah. Appreciate you, JoJo.
Hey, Pastor, welcome. I'll say it again. I had to leave because I had to attend the funeral.
Gotcha.
I don't know what part of the country, or in your part of the country, You know, black folks in this part of the country, funerals last like a half of a work day.
Yeah.
Or longer. So I intend to be here.
Yeah.
My question is, can you just give a brother a recap of what you shared with the people here today? No, just kidding.
Oh, that's a lot.
Just kidding, just kidding. I already got enough enemies, just kidding.
Yeah, because look, you can see they ain't trying to hear that. That man said a quick recap. Here's the recap. God is good. That man said a recap. Y'all, listen, I'll take the 3 hours to go over it again. Nah, I ain't. No, I ain't. Listen, I'm tired myself because, you know, I drove the 17 hours, and then when I got here yesterday, I didn't go to sleep. When I got here yesterday, I didn't go right to sleep. 'Cause I had to come up here to the church. I had to connect with Lady Blue. I had to go to Walmart, get some things, go back to the house. I laid down at like 9-something. Yeah, I laid down at 9-something. But then, see, I ain't never experienced a tornado before, right? So my phones go off at like 10-something last night. So I shoot up out the bed and what? And I'm gonna tell you where I went. So I'm looking at my phones and they're saying tornado watch, and I don't know which one's worse, the warning or the watch for a tornado, right? The warning is, so it was a tornado warning last night. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. And they're like, I pulled up YouTube, and a guy was talking about the tornadoes or whatever. And he was like, you know, if you live in a trailer, get out. I look out the window across the street, and there's some trailers over there. So they was like, I don't know what to do right now, because tornadoes seem to find trailers, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't want to get in my car and start driving because I don't want to run into the tornado. So no, I didn't think to get in the bathtub, so I went and just hid in the closet. So I'm just hiding in the closet for like 20 minutes, just wait. I didn't know what to do, and there were so many windows in the house. I didn't know to stand by a window, not to stand by a window. So I just went in the closet. I'm literally just standing in the closet like this here for like 20-something minutes, trying to figure out what to do, hoping the tornado, and I'm praying to God. I'm like, Lord, I need to preach a sermon tomorrow. Please don't let the tornado. Hey, man, I ain't never been through no tornado before. Listen, anytime y'all get a tornado warning, please just call me and my wife and check on us, because we ain't never been through no tornado. So I was up till like 11-something trying to wait out the tornado warnings right afterwards. After I prayed a few times, I prayed like 6 times. After I prayed, I said, God, it's just going to be what it's going to be. I'm tired. I'm going to sleep. And listen, so then I woke up about 8 o'clock this morning, right? And I said, well, I guess the tornado ain't coming get me because I'm alive still. Amen, hallelujah, right? So I'm tired. All that to say I'm tired.
Well, Pastor, it's best to Google instead of
Gotcha.
It's best to Google instead of going to YouTube. It's quicker.
Listen, I ain't know what to do. I'm just trying. I ain't never been through a tornado before. So hurricanes I've been through, but I've never been through a tornado, so I'm not sure exactly what to do during a tornado. So I'm like, okay, well, you know, I'm just like, all right, I'll stand in the closet, pray 6 times, and then I'm going to bed. And that's what I did. Listen, 'cause here's one thing I know from looking at TV. They always find a trailer. You know what I'm saying? And there's a trailer across the street. And I'm like, well, if it goes over there, it's probably going to suck me up too. I guess I won't see y'all tomorrow. So I'm like, Lord, I'm literally telling God, I got to preach a sermon tomorrow. Like, spare me. You know, like, God, spare me so I can go to church tomorrow. I drove all the way out here. I want to go to church tomorrow. And he spared me. So I'm here.
You were supposed to go in a bathroom.
Man, they always hit trailer parks. So I'm like, oh, my. Yes, ma'am. You had a question?
You were supposed to go in the bathroom and be in the tub.
I need to go in the bathroom tub? Yeah. See, I didn't. Now, why is the tub safe? I don't understand why. Yeah, see, the YouTube was telling me basement and all that. I'm like, ain't no basement. The lowest area. Got you. So go, okay. Yeah, I'm like. Nah, no, there's really not no trees well, there is a couple of trees actually. Yeah, there's a few trees, but you know, it was just like, all right. I mean, the best thing I could think of was the closet. There was no window right there. But every now and again, I would creep over to the window. I would look out the thing because I needed to see if the trailer was still there, because the trailer ain't there. I ain't going to be here much longer. And I'm looking dead over there I'm looking spot at the trailer, man. I'm like, there's a trailer over there. You know? So if that trailer get whisked, I'm looking out the window and everybody over there at their houses and trailers look calm. I'm in here just, all nervous as can be, praying 6 times and hiding in the closet at doggone 11 o'clock at night. And what y'all was doing at 11 o'clock at night? Y'all was asleep? Why y'all ain't check on me? For all of y'all that was awake, why y'all ain't check on Pastor Chancy to make sure I ain't get sucked away from the tornado? Man, but I never been through no tornado in Texas. I'd never been through. When you ever heard a tornado come through San Antonio, Texas? Well, listen, now you know if there's a tornado watch or warning between tonight and next Sabbath, call me, because I'm going to be here the whole week. If y'all get one of them things, I expect a text message or a call, please and thank you. Have me sitting over there in Jacksonville in the country looking out the window and not knowing what to do all by my lonesome. Man, I'm like, man, good. I text my wife, too. My wife was knocked out sleep. You know what I'm saying? I was, man, listen, I'm sitting there all by my lonesome. I don't know what to do in this moment. I'm like, oh, man. I did 6 times. At the Valentine, next time a tornado I'm coming over your house or calling you. Yeah, that's what I was doing last night. So, any other questions or comments? If not, we can stand up and I'll close us out with prayer. I appreciate you. Oh yes, sir. Mr. JoJo has a question. My worker.
When you were talking about when you were a teen earlier, you were saying how you were very interested in sports and football. Well, for me, like, I enjoy video games and sports. So what is a way that can open my mind, or like that I'm open to try new things? Because when I try to read or I try to do other things, it's not that I don't hate it, but I don't find it as enjoyable as I do sports and games. Yeah, and I appreciate that question. I appreciate that question. And while I'm beating you one-on-one too, I'll share you. Don't do that. I'll share more of that information with you. But I do want to say this for right now. One of the things that's important is this. It takes, to form a new habit, form new synapses in the brain, it takes roughly 21 days. 21 days. That means you got to pretty much do the same thing for 21 days. When I was a little kid, I hated reading. I despised reading. That's what I thought. I thought I hated reading. But what it really was I hated reading what I didn't like. I loved reading what I liked. I thought I didn't like reading, but that wasn't the case. You see what I'm saying? And so what happens is you've got to figure out ways to build up new pathways, new synapses, new habits in the brain for you to be able to say, you know what? I actually like this now, right? I love reading. I love reading books that don't even interest me because I was up with him till 2-something Friday morning while he drive. Yeah, that was Friday. That wasn't why the tornado was going on. Shakar, that was, yeah. But you form those new pathways, and that starts to open up your mind more to other things, right? One thing that's interesting about this day and age is you have YouTube, TikTok, you have Facebook, you have Instagram, you have all these things that open you up to the whole world. Back when I was a kid, man, you had to know your ABCs just to be able to figure out the encyclopedia. You know what I'm saying? Or the dictionary or whatever, right? So we were limited in a sense, but you have access to everything. And having access to everything, right, you can start to look at different things that you think you're not interested in, but try them out. Because again, it takes 21 days to form a new habit. Try it, and see if you actually start to like it, if it actually becomes something that's interesting to you, right? Try that out. But again, we'll talk more when I'm beating you this week. We're gonna coordinate that thing, and we're gonna talk about all that, all right? All right, we'll see.
What you like to eat, man? Where you like to eat at?
Everything.
Okay, all right, we going to Taco Bell. They got a $1 menu.
Hey, Taco Bell gonna have my stomach hurting. I'm gonna pass.
You said everything.
I was joking. All
right, we gonna get up though, JoJo. We gonna get up, man. Appreciate the question, man.
Yes, sir.
Let's see. Who wants to pray? You want to pray, Sister Delta? You the AY leader? This AY time. Sister Delta gonna pray. No, you work for United. Sorry. You did say United.
All right, yes, and we're praying. Dear most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, thank you so much for another wonderful, blessed Sabbath day of fellowship, fun, getting to know our pastoral family, Lord. And we just pray moving forward that we will continue to get to know our pastor and his family, that we would all fellowship together and support one another, especially support the pastor and his vision for this church, and that we will pick up all the things that he's putting down, and that you will get the glory out of everything that we do. We ask all these things in your son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Appreciate everybody. Have a good rest of the afternoon. JoJo, get your game.